Chapter 55-76. At this moment, the long-bearded divine dragon elder knew that Kang Shinmu had already made up his mind. He would definitely let the elder of the Mirror of Retrospection come. Therefore, he had almost no other choice. Or he could wait for the elder of the Mirror of Retrospection to come and announce the truth. And this truth, in the eyes of the long-bearded divine dragon elder, was very likely to be Sage's mistake. Since that was the case, he must not let the truth be announced. The only way now was to directly capture Kang Shinmu by force and take Kang Shinmu and the others away. Before the elder of the Mirror of Retrospection arrived, he could avoid making any noise. Once the Mirror of Retrospection allowed them to go back in time, they would no longer have anything to fear. So at this moment, the long-bearded divine dragon old man suddenly transformed into a dragon, turning into the body of a tempest spirit void divine dragon, sweeping towards Jiang Shenwu with the force of a sudden clap of thunder. Without any words, he attacked violently. Everyone in the surroundings was shocked. He actually attacked Kang Shinmu as an elder of the Storm Spirit Illusion Holy Land. This was completely bullying the younger generation. How shameless! Yu Tianchang and the others' expressions changed drastically. They had not expected that the other party would attack directly, completely disregarding his dignity as an elder. However, good timing, Kang Shinmu was not afraid at all. He turned into a pitch-black divine dragon body on the spot and charged toward the long-bearded divine dragon elder. He did not retreat but advanced. Except for Sui, almost no one present had expected this. Even Yu Tianchang did not expect Kang Shinmu to be so fierce. One must know that the other party was an elder of the Storm Spirit Illusion Holy Land, and a true peak supreme god elder. This elder was much more powerful than a peak supreme god demonic being. After all, elders of this level all had a series of self-defense treasures on them. They were not comparable to one or two demonic beings. Next, the long-bearded divine dragon elder came with the momentum of a storm. The whirlwind shook the heavens and the earth, and it had already enveloped Kang Shinmu's entire black dragon body. However, at this moment, when everyone thought that Kang Shinmu was about to be subdued and taken away, a wave of terrifying demonic aura emanated from Kang Shinmu's body, condensing into a terrifying demonic aura. Supreme 10-directional devil seal. Kang Shinmu brazenly made his move. He immediately took out the saint-grade weapon of heaven and earth with 9 layers of seals unlocked. Waves of terrifying demonic aura swept out in all directions at this moment. The long-bearded divine dragon elder had not expected such a scene to appear. The expression in his pair of divine dragon eyes was incomparably shocked. You actually used the Fiend Celestial Team's Heaven and Earth sacred item. Most importantly, it was a Heaven and Earth Saint grade that had already unlocked all 9 layers of seals. This was something that he did not expect. After all, no one knew that Kang Shinmu had obtained the extreme 10-directional devil seal. Furthermore, the value of a Heaven and Earth sacred item that had unlocked all 9 layers of seals was terrifying. How could it be obtained by a junior? As strong as Emperor Shi's mystical dragon was, it was only after Kang Shinmu obtained that Heaven and Earth sacred item that the entire dragon god race unlocked all 9 layers of seals for Emperor Shi's mystical dragon. It was not that easy for Emperor Shi's mystical dragon to unlock all 9 layers of seals. But now, even the disciple of Emperor Shi's mystical dragon, Kang Shinmu, already possessed a Heaven and Earth sacred item that had unlocked all 9 layers of seals. Without waiting for the long-bearded divine dragon elder to resist, the terrifying demonic aura that originated from the supreme 10-directional devil seal had already mercilessly passed through his Storm Spirit Illusion Holy Land body. Although Kang Shinmu did not release the full power of the supreme 10-directional devil seal, the long-bearded divine dragon elder could already feel the terrifying power within. It was not something that a super divine dragon like him could withstand. Furthermore, even a supreme divine dragon powerhouse would not be able to withstand the full power of the extreme 10-directional devil seal. Of course, now that Kang Shinmu was in the Dragon Martial Continent, it was impossible for him to release all of its power. But just the portion of the demonic aura that he released was enough to severely injure the long-bearded divine dragon elder. The next moment, the power of the storm condensed and protected the long-bearded divine dragon elder's mystical dragon body. However, he was still pierced through by the boundless demonic aura, and was completely pierced through from the mystical dragon body. The entire storm spirit illusion divine dragon body flew out like a kite with a broken string, crashing into the wilderness behind him. Amidst the loud bang, everyone in the surroundings fell into silence. The long-bearded divine dragon elder from the storm spirit illusion Holy Land did not die, but, after receiving such a heavy blow from Kang Shinmu, he was already seriously injured. You! Kang Shinmu, how dare you injure my master? Seeing this, Xingming's entire face turned pale. He was originally very dissatisfied with Kang Shinmu. But he did not expect that this Kang Shinmu would be so decisive, severely injuring his master in front of everyone, and even using the Fiend Celestial Group's Heaven and Earth Sacred Grade. Why wouldn't I dare? Kang Shinmu glanced at him, still maintaining the pitch-black mystical dragon body. His pair of mystical dragon eyes were filled with coldness as he looked at Xingming. You killed your own disciples and even kidnapped your own junior sister, just to frame all of this on me. How vicious. Today, you must die. As soon as he finished speaking, Xingming felt as if he had been struck by lightning. He did not doubt Kang Shinmu's words at all. Because at this moment, he could already see the elders from the 5 extreme mysterious ice holy land rushing over here as fast as they could from the distant horizon. The mystical dragons were howling in the clouds. A moment later, the elders had already arrived in front of the valley. What happened here? The elders of the 5 extreme mysterious ice holy land immediately asked. As for the elders of the storm serene illusion holy land, they were incomparably nervous now. It was not that they could not defeat the elders of the 5 extreme mysterious ice holy land. Rather, it was that they could not defeat Kang Shinmu. Kang Shinmu had the extreme 10-directional devil seal, and he had already mastered it to the point of perfection, controlling all of its power perfectly. This made them very clear. If Kang Shinmu wanted to kill all of them, it would be easy. After all, the power of the extreme 10-directional devil seal had already far exceeded their limits. As for Kang Shinmu, he only needed to control the power of the extreme 10-directional devil seal and not exceed the limits that the current dragon martial continent could withstand. Under such circumstances, the storm serene illusion holy land was at an absolute disadvantage in terms of martial power. Even if they wanted to help Xingming, they could not continue at all. Immediately. Chapter 55-77. At this moment, even the long-bearded divine dragon elder had been seriously injured by Kang Shinmu. The other elders of the stormy spirit illusion holy land only had one solution at this time. That was, to cut all ties with the long-bearded divine dragon elder and Xingming. And when Xingming saw the kind-looking elder step forward, he immediately shouted, Elder Xiao, Kang Shinmu just injured my master, why is he still treating them so kindly? In my opinion, we should subdue them. Shut up. The kind-looking elder's face immediately darkened. He used to think highly of Xingming, but after all, he was not his own disciple. So now that something had happened, he could completely escape. At this time, he could already see that Xingming had probably done nothing good, so he directly cut all ties with Xingming and his master. When the truth was revealed, he could completely stay out of it. Although if the truth was revealed, it would definitely cause the entire stormy spirit illusion holy land to fall into a true chaotic storm, but at least he could protect himself. Seeing this, Xingming was indignant and wanted to say something. In the end, the kind-looking elder immediately raised his hand, and a terrifying and tyrannical power swept out, sweeping towards Xingming. Xingming originally wanted to speak, but he was shrouded by this power, and he could not even say a word. He wanted to transform into a dragon to break out of the shackles, but at this time, the elders from the 5 extreme mysterious ice holy land had already moved. Although it was the long-bearded divine dragon elder who had been seriously injured by Kang Shinmu, there was definitely a reason for this. How could they let Kang Shinmu be bullied by people from other holy lands? Very quickly, the mirror of backtrack made its move. In this mountain valley, everything that had happened not long ago finally reappeared on the mirror of backtrack. The crowd were able to clearly see Xingming and the sacred music arriving at the ravine. Just as Xinglu was feeling a little strange, Xingming suddenly made a move. After transforming into a stormy spirit illusion divine dragon, he brazenly attacked his junior sister Xinglu. Xinglu had no time to react at all, and was immediately enveloped by a terrifying restriction. Junior sister, oh junior sister, who asked you to make things difficult for senior brother? You actually think so highly of that Kang Shinmu? Xingming, in the form of a storm spirit void divine dragon, looked down at Xinglu who was imprisoned in the valley. Junior sister, since it's like this, wait for senior brother to deal with that Kang Shinmu, then come back and get intimate with you. He. After that, you don't need to live anymore. In the retrospective mirror, Xingli's face was filled with disbelief. He had never imagined that Xingming would actually do such a thing. First, he imprisoned her, then he wanted to kill her. And the cause of this matter was Jiang Shenwu's appearance had made him feel that he was inferior to him. All of this was because of the long-bearded divine dragon elder's partiality towards the wise, causing him to develop the habit of being domineering. Even now, this kid has already committed a grave mistake. The kind-looking elder of the Storm Spirit Illusion Holy Land had a solemn expression on his face. Everyone else from the Storm Spirit Illusion Holy Land had ugly expressions on their faces. But at the same time, they expressed their opinions almost at the same time, drawing a line with Xingming. The elders split up, and then surrounded Xingming in the middle, preventing him from escaping. When Xingming saw that all of his actions had been replayed by the retrospective mirror, his face couldn't help but turn sinister. He immediately roared, I only imprisoned my junior sister. It has nothing to do with anyone else. Even if I said some harsh words, I didn't do it in reality. If I wait for you to turn it into reality, it will be too late. The kind-looking elder said, Xingli's talent is not bad, far surpassing yours. If she is really killed by you, it will be the loss of the entire Storm Spirit Illusion Holy Land. What do you know? Xingming roared out, how can Xingli's talent compare to mine? I am Master's most beloved disciple. You have no right to punish me. Kang Shinmu looked at this person's crazy appearance and shook his head. This child's mentality was already out of balance, completely unlike a dragon martial artist. And this was because his master had spoiled him too much, which led to such a tragedy today. The 8 disciples of the Storm Spirit Illusion Holy Land should have been killed by him. Look around, the retrospective mirror should still be able to find some clues. Kang Shinmu said, and then nodded to the elders of the 5 extreme mysterious ice holy land. The elders also nodded their heads in agreement. Although this matter had nothing to do with the 5 extreme mysterious ice holy land, the other party wanted to use this to slander Kang Shinmu, so it had something to do with them. Then don't blame them for interfering in this matter. Following that, the elders split up to search for clues, and the elders who had the retrospective mirror followed Kang Shinmu to the place where Xingming had gone before. They followed Xingming's tracks, moving forward. In the end, they found the scene of Xingming killing the 8 disciples of the Storm Spirit Illusion Holy Land. In the retrospective mirror, everything was replayed. In that scene, Xingming turned into a Storm Spirit Illusion Divine Dragon and looked down from above, enveloping the 8 unprepared Storm Spirit Illusion Holy Land disciples with an endless storm. They had never thought that eldest senior brother Xingming would treat them so cruelly. Even Xinglu, who was also at the 9th level of the Transcendent God Realm, was unable to withstand his sneak attack. Not to mention these disciples of the Storm Spirit Illusion Holy Land whose cultivation levels were still very low. They were ambushed by Xingming and had no ability to resist at all. One by one, they were swept up by the terrifying power of the storm and torn to pieces. Remember, you all died because of Kang Shinmu. If you want to hate, then go and hate Kang Shinmu. After Xingming killed the 8 junior brothers, he left coldly, the scene in the Mirror of Recall caused all the elders of the Storm Spirit Illusion Holy Land to have extremely ugly expressions. However, they were also a little glad. Before this, they did not easily stand on Xingming's side. It was still not too late to turn the spear around. The main reason was that the long-bearded Divine Dragon Elder had been severely injured by Kang Xinmu. Thus, no one was so determined to defend Xingming. At this moment, the kind-looking old man did not hesitate at all and directly came in front of Xingming, who was surrounded in the middle. "You have no right to punish me. My master." "My master," Xingming's eyes were about to pop out of his sockets. He realized that he might be punished, and it would be a very serious punishment. He might even be suppressed and killed on the spot. At this moment, he finally remembered his master, the long-bearded Divine Dragon Elder. Chapter 55-78. When the long-bearded Divine Dragon Elder was heavily injured by Kang Xinmu, Xingming had never thought of going to check on his master. Now he finally remembered. However, the long-bearded Divine Dragon Elder had already fallen into a coma and could no longer stand up and speak up for Xingming. Furthermore, even if he could speak up for Xingming now, what was the use? Xingming, this kid, is vicious and merciless. He killed his fellow junior brothers and sisters and took 8 lives. He even tried to plot against Xingming and used this to frame little brother Kang Xinmu. He deserves death. Following the final solemn sentence of the kind-looking elder, the surrounding Storm Spirit Illusion Holy Land elders finally joined forces and attacked together. They were very clear that they had to make a move now in order to draw a clear line between them and Xingming. Moreover, this move could make the storm of the Storm Spirit Illusion Holy Land smaller. If Xingming was still alive and this matter was spread out, it would definitely make the Storm Spirit Illusion Holy Land infamous. This way, who would dare to send their children to the Storm Spirit Illusion Holy Land to cultivate? So, Xingming definitely could not be left alive. Once he was killed on the spot, then even if this matter was spread out in the future, everyone would feel that the Storm Spirit Illusion Holy Land had handled it well. It wouldn't bring too much of an impact to the Storm Spirit Illusion Holy Land, and the real responsibility would be borne by the heavily injured long-bearded Divine Dragon Elder. After all, Xingming could be killed. However, the long-bearded Divine Dragon Elder could not be killed. After all, he was an elder of the Storm Spirit Illusion Holy Land. Even if he was to be killed, it couldn't be the other elders who were also elders. It had to be done by a supreme expert, so, the long-bearded Divine Dragon Elder, who was related to this matter and doted on Xingming so much, would take full responsibility for this matter. The doting in the past would all turn into punishment and a heavy burden on his shoulders. Unfortunately, the long-bearded Divine Dragon Elder had already fainted from his heavy injuries. Otherwise, he would have vomited blood from anger. After all, he was not the only elder who doted on Xingming. The other elders also thought highly of Xingming, but in reality, the other elders only felt that it was possible for Xingming to break through to the supreme level and become a supreme expert, which was why they turned a blind eye to his actions. Yet now, that Xingming had actually committed such a terrifying act of harming his fellow disciples. As such, those elders simply did not dare to allow him to stay. After all, if he could kill his fellow disciples now, if he became a supreme master in the future, wouldn't it be a disaster for the entire Dragon God's world? Perhaps they, the elders, would die in the hands of Xingming one day. Hence, he was killed on the spot. The benevolent old man worked together with the other elders and sent a horrifying storm at Xingming. At this moment, Xingming had also transformed into a storm spirit void divine dragon, desperately resisting. He even took out many powerful dragon weapons. These dragon weapons were all supreme-grade dragon weapons that the long-bearded divine dragon elder usually forged and prepared for him. His combat strength was extremely strong. Unfortunately, no matter how strong he was, it was impossible for him to defeat the joint forces of several elders. In the short time it took to drink a cup of tea, Xingming could not hold on any longer. Under everyone's gaze, he was finally swallowed up by the storm. There was no chance of survival. In the field, Kang Shinmu and the others finally heaved a sigh of relief. Then, they turned their attention to Xinglu, who was still unconscious. Very soon, the elders acted in unison and woke Xinglu up from his coma. I am Xingming, you. She had just woken up, and her face was still pale. As if she had thought of something, she got up and looked around. In the end, she did not see Xingming. Instead, she saw the elders of the Storm Spirit Void Holy Land and the elders of the Five Extremes Mysterious Ice Holy Land. Most importantly, she saw Kang Shinmu in the crowd. This person that she liked very much was here looking at her. Where is Xingming? Xinglu struggled to get up with the help of a middle-aged female elder. She looked around, but did not see Xingming, nor did she see her master. What had happened? Only then did the kind-looking elder tell her everything that had just happened. From the moment Kang Shinmu and the others discovered that she was imprisoned in this valley, to when Kang Shinmu came over and confronted the long-bearded divine dragon elder and Xingming. Then, to when Kang Shinmu directly injured the long-bearded divine dragon elder, and the appearance of the Five Extremes Mysterious Ice Holy Land's mirror of backtrack. Only then did the truth come to light. Then, Xingming was killed. The long-bearded divine dragon elder was immediately brought back to the Holy Land for confinement. As for how he would be punished, it would all depend on the Supreme Holy Land powerhouses. In any case, Xingming actually killed a fellow disciple this time, which was a great taboo that could not be forgiven. The long-bearded divine dragon elder's position as an elder might not be stable anymore. When Xinglu understood everything, she could not help but feel her heart beat faster. Thank you, Kang Shinmu. I didn't expect you to save me this time. Xinglu came in front of Kang Shinmu, and her pretty face finally regained some color. She was a little glad, and a little grateful. It's no problem, it's nothing. Kang Shinmu smiled at her. After that, there was nothing else. Kang Shinmu left with the girls. The internal affairs of the Storm Serene Illusion Holy Land were left to them to handle. It had nothing to do with Kang Shinmu. Originally, this matter was caused by Xingming trying to frame Kang Shinmu. Now that even Xingming had been killed on the spot, there was naturally no need for Kang Shinmu to stay here. Very soon, he brought the girls and left the valley, preparing to continue clearing the demonic gale in the Dragon Martial continent. However, what he did not expect was that Xinglu actually wanted to follow him. Kang Shinmu thought about it. After all, Xinglu was a peak god-level expert, so if she followed him, she could still protect Su Yi and the others. So he agreed. Thus, there was another Xinglu in the team, and, after this incident, Xinglu had the thought of leaving the Storm Serene Illusion Holy Land. Of course, it was not that easy for her to leave the Storm Serene Illusion Holy Land. After all, she had always used up a lot of the Storm Serene Illusion Holy Land's resources. However, there was a way. Now that Kang Shinmu's reputation was like the sun in the sky, he could even heavily injure the elder of the Storm Serene Illusion Holy Land on the spot. If she mentioned that she wanted to follow Kang Shinmu, then the Storm Serene Illusion Holy Land would most likely agree. Follow? When Kang Shinmu heard Xing Li's thoughts, he did not know whether to laugh or cry. Chapter 55-79. Just as Kang Shinmu was feeling a little surprised, Xinglu even said that the kind-looking elder had already agreed and would help her report this matter to the supreme experts of the Storm Spirit Illusion Holy Land. This matter was basically settled. That kind-looking elder was quite experienced in the Storm Spirit Illusion Holy Land. Moreover, in his eyes, Xing Li's chances of breaking through to become a supreme expert were much greater than Xingming's in the past. So how could he obstruct Xing Li's wishes? However, it was probably impossible to leave the Storm Spirit Illusion Holy Land. Of course, as long as she didn't leave the Storm Spirit Illusion Holy Land, she wouldn't be restricted by the rules of the Holy Land. As long as she could build a good relationship with Kang Shinmu, it would be fine. Kang Shinmu couldn't do anything about this. This Xinglu could be said to have fallen into danger because of him, but at the same time, it was also because of him that she managed to survive. In the end, it was because of Xing Ming's personality that he was so extreme. For such an extreme person, even if he didn't explode this time, he would explode sooner or later. Now that he had exploded, it was coincidentally exposed by Kang Xinmu. If he exploded one day in the future, it was very likely that Xinglu wouldn't have such a good opportunity to obtain Kang Xinmu's help. Next, Kang Xinmu continued towards the direction of the dragon ceiling abyss. The closer they got to the dragon ceiling abyss, the denser and more numerous the surrounding demonic energy cracks. At this time, Kang Xinmu was glad that Xinglu was following him. Otherwise, the safety of Su Yi and the others would not be guaranteed. There were many peak stage supreme god-level demonic creatures here. Although Xinglu sometimes couldn't finish off her opponents quickly, as long as she could stall all the demonic creatures, she could create time for Kang Xinmu to turn around and kill those demonic creatures. If it was just a single peak stage supreme god-level demonic creature, Xinglu would be able to deal with it easily. The inheritance of the Holy Light Dragon of Life was not only able to heal injuries, but its power of Holy Light also had a special punishment effect when dealing with these demonic creatures. Its destructive power was very obvious. Thus, next was the division of labor. Every time Kang Xinmu saw a demonic crack, he would rush towards it and devour it. As for the transcendent god-level monsters, they were left to Xinglu and the girls to deal with. This way, Kang Xinmu would be able to devour the devil chi at a faster rate. The time it took for Kang Xinmu to devour 2 devil chi rifts could now be saved for 3 devil chi rifts. His speed had greatly increased. Moreover, Xinglu got along quite well with Su Yi and the others. Xinglu was very grateful to Su Yi and the others for saving him. As for Su Yi and the others, they admired Xinglu, whose cultivation had reached the peak of the supreme god realm. After all, Xinglu was not much older than them. Therefore, he could ask her for advice on some questions regarding cultivation. Of course, Su Yi cultivated the legacy of the demon god race, so there was no need for him to consult him. Both of them cultivated different energy systems. As for Yu Tianchang and the others, they respected Xinglu very much, therefore, there was not much of a problem with the girls getting along with each other. In fact, they were very harmonious. This was what Kang Xinmu was more concerned about. If they quarreled with each other, it would be a real headache. Fortunately, the girls had a good temper and mentality, and they did not have any feelings of jealousy. If they had the mentality of Xingming, they would probably not be able to calm down at all. One day and one night passed. Jiang Shenwu led the women to rest for a while. Coupled with the efforts of the other reinforcements from the Martial Dragon continent, the number of devil chi rifts in the entire Dragon Martial continent had finally decreased by a large amount. After Kang Xinmu devoured the devil chi rifts for a day, his cultivation in the divine dragon inheritance had gradually increased, and the grade of his divine dragon blood essence had become stronger. It was as if he had devoured a huge amount of dragon mark energy. His cultivation had broken through to the 7th level of the Supreme God realm. There were only 2 more breakthroughs left before he reached the peak of the Super Divine Dragon. However, at this time, the amount of dragon mark energy Kang Xinmu needed to absorb every time he broke through was even greater. Even if he kept devouring the power of the devil chi rifts, it would be difficult for him to feel any improvement. The 7th level of the Supreme God realm was already at the advanced level. Even in the entire Holy Land of 5 Extremes Dark Ice, there were not many experts who had reached the 7th level of the Supreme God realm. Every expert above the 7th level of the Supreme God realm was a powerful existence in the 4 civilizations, and countless people knew of them. After daybreak, Kang Xinmu finished resting and continued to lead the girls to attack. At this time, everyone felt that there were other experts who had come to the Dragon Martial continent at the same time. These experts had different auras. They were not other dragon martial artists, nor were they demonic existences. Instead, they were cultivators from other races who had gathered together to help. Among them, there was the demon god race. There was the ancient phoenix race. Wait a minute. Many races had come to the Dragon Martial continent together. When the Dragon Martial continent was invaded by demonic beings, countless races had noticed this. All the races that had a good relationship with the Dragon God race had sent their young experts over to help. As for those who did not have a good relationship with the Dragon God race, even if they sent people to help, the Dragon God race would not let them enter the Dragon Martial continent. After all, the current Dragon Martial continent was relatively weak. Once a supreme power erupted, the entire continent would shatter. If those hostile races wanted to cause trouble and frame the Dragon Martial continent, and completely destroy it, then letting them in would be completely harming the Dragon Gods. Therefore, those who could come to the Dragon Martial continent to help had a good relationship with the Dragon God race. Ice Moon Silk. Kang Shinmu had just finished devouring a rift of devil chi when he flew toward the next one. Halfway through his flight, he saw two familiar figures. One was from the Demon God group, the Ice Moon Silk of the Bing tribe. There was also Murong Lieni from the ancient Phoenix clan, who had absorbed Kang Shinmu's devouring power and undergone nirvana. These two women were actually walking together and fighting against a 7th-level transcendent god. Kang Shinmu's battle prowess had already reached the peak of the transcendent god level. However, whether it was the Ice Moon Silk or Murong Lieni, their growth speed was not as fast as Kang Shinmu's. Their battle prowess was basically around the 7th level of the transcendent god level. If they joined forces, it would be very easy to deal with a 7th-level transcendent god demonic being. After all, Murong Lieni now had a trace of Kang Shinmu's devouring power in her body. This devouring power had almost changed the nature of the ancient Phoenix clan's inheritance power in her body. Chapter 5580. When Kang Shinmu arrived, he realized that Ice Moon Silk and Murong Lieni seemed to know each other and were good friends. One was ice, and the other was fire. They were quite compatible. At this moment, they were fighting with a 7th-tier divine beast and had completely suppressed it. Around the crack in demonic chi, there were experts from the Demon God group and the ancient Phoenix clan clearing the crack in demonic chi. Suddenly, a 9th-tier divine beast escaped from the encirclement of many experts and charged straight at Ice Moon Silk and Murong Lieni. This made the two women frown slightly. If they faced a 9th-tier divine beast head-on, they would not be a match for it. Just as they were thinking about how to deal with it, Jiang Shenwu, who had transformed into a pitch-black mystical dragon, charged out from the side and directly blocked the 9th level of the Supreme God Realm demonic creature. Furthermore, a wave of extreme destructive heavenly might dragon soul destroyed the demonic creature from the front. In an instant, it turned into a ball of demonic chi and exploded in all directions. For Kang Shinmu, dealing with this kind of 9th-tier divine beast was too easy. This scene surprised both Ice Moon Silk and Murong Lieni. Wasn't this Black Dragon Kang Shinmu? This was the first time Ice Moon Silk had seen Kang Shinmu's divine dragon form. Her eyes lit up. When she and Kang Shinmu were in the Demon God clan, she had fought against Kang Shinmu's demon god body. At that time, she could not even defeat Kang Shinmu's demon god cultivation base. Unexpectedly, Kang Shinmu's dragon god cultivation base was so powerful. At this time, Ice Moon Silk could not help but compare Kang Shinmu with the other young experts of the demon god clan, such as Tuoba Shui, Li Tianxiong, and so on. In the end, she realized that no one could be compared to Kang Shinmu. When the Fiend Celestial race held the ranking competition of the various royal families, Kang Shinmu's Fiend Celestial race cultivation and combat prowess could only reach the 6th level of the Supreme God Realm, or at most the 7th level. But in the blink of an eye, Kang Shinmu had just returned to the great world of the Dragon Gods, and the battle prowess of the Dragon Gods that he had unleashed had already crushed a 9th-tier Supreme God Realm demon. This made the Frozen Moon Silk Cloth feel somewhat incredulous. Originally, she shouldered the heavy burden of the Bing dynasty's rise, and with her talent, she was completely capable of accomplishing this. Unfortunately, compared to Kang Shinmu, her talent was really not worth mentioning. And at this time, Frozen Moon Silk couldn't help but recall a matter that her clan's senior once said. Should they be like the Su dynasty and rope in Kang Shinmu? As for how they were going to rope in Kang Shinmu, needless to say, they naturally had to rely on her, one of the four great beauties of the demon god race's younger generation. Naturally, she was unwilling. However, she didn't reject communicating with an expert like Kang Shinmu. Since they had coincidentally met, there was no need to pretend that she didn't see him. Kang Shinmu. However, what she didn't expect was that before she could greet him, Murong Lieni, who was beside her, had already greeted Kang Shinmu. Lieni, thank you for coming over to help. Kang Shinmu nodded at each of the two women, then returned to his human form. After all, they had come to the Dragon Martial Continent to help, so it was reasonable for him to thank them. The Bing dynasty and I only came over to see if these demons have anything to do with the demon god race. There's no need to thank us. Frozen Moon Silk Cloth said to Kang Shinmu. Only then did Kang Shinmu understand why Frozen Moon Silk Cloth had come here. At this time, Kang Shinmu discovered that when Frozen Moon Silk looked at the women behind him, especially when she saw Sui, there was a clear desire to challenge them in her eyes. This caused Kang Shinmu to involuntarily shake his head and smile. It was likely that he had brought Sui to clean up the cracks in the demonic aura, causing the Bing imperial clan to worry. What if Sui had gained some sort of comprehension from these cracks in the martial dragon continent? Wouldn't the Su imperial clan become even stronger? What a pity. Kang Shinmu was now very sure that these demons and the power of the demon chi cracks had nothing to do with the power inherited by the demon god race. Clearly, these powers were all related to the chaotic heaven-devouring dragon. These demons had rushed out of the dragon martial continent and were completely rushing toward the sealing dragon abyss. Clearly, they wanted to do something to the sealing dragon abyss. Did they want to undo the restrictions of the sealing dragon abyss? Or did they have some other goal? Kang Shinmu didn't know. Even the consciousness of the demon god ancestor in his body and the black dragon's consciousness were completely confused. But no matter what, he had to stop these demons. Lieni, you know Kang Shinmu? Frozen Moon Silk was a little curious. Yes, in the past, he helped me achieve nirvana. Murong Lieni's beautiful face was a little flushed. This kind of thing was relatively rare in the ancient Phoenix clan. Moreover, this kind of situation usually only happened between people who were relatively close. Although the relationship between Kang Shinmu and her was purely accidental, in the ancient Phoenix clan, there were very few people who would integrate the power of others. Now, a part of Kang Shinmu's devouring power flowed in her body. Moreover, this part of power made her cultivation speed much faster than before. The speed at which she absorbed all kinds of heaven and earth spiritual energy was far faster than before. Clearly, this was the effect of Kang Shinmu's devouring power. However, Murong Lieni had not expected that after not seeing each other for a period of time, Kang Shinmu would actually be able to kill a 9th-level supreme god demonic creature with ease. Even an elder like her would not be able to defeat a demonic creature of this level in one fell swoop. At the very least, they would have to fight for a period of time to ensure that the other party had no more tricks up their sleeves before finally killing it. In the end, Kang Shinmu attacked as soon as he appeared. He did not give the 9th-level supreme god demonic creature any chance at all. As for the 9th-level supreme god demonic creature, it did not have any chance to resist. It was directly killed by Kang Shinmu's extreme heaven's might dragon soul. This method could already be said to be terrifying. At this moment, Kang Shinmu appeared. After greeting them, he turned around and rushed towards the crack in the demonic aura. Some peak supreme god experts of the Bing royal clan were trying to clear the crack in the demonic aura. When Kang Shinmu arrived, his devouring power swept out and completely enveloped the crack in the demonic aura. Then, he quickly devoured the demonic aura contained within it. This speed is so fast. The expressions of the surrounding experts of the Bing royal clan changed drastically. Of course, they had already recognized Kang Shinmu. Chapter 5581. Everyone was astonished. There were many experts from the Demon God clan and the Bing royal clan present. Previously, during the ranking competition between the royal clans, they had been criticizing Kang Xinmu, discussing whether Kang Xinmu was stronger or weaker than Tuoba Shui, Li Tianxiong, and the others. Unexpectedly, now, Kang Xinmu had once again appeared in front of them. He had already become an unimaginable existence to them. He had killed a 9th-tier transcendent god demonic being with one move. Moreover, he had cleared the demonic chi rift at such a terrifying speed. Without a doubt, all of this caused their hearts to be filled with shock. After all, they had never thought that Kang Xinmu, who had been able to compete with Tuoba Shui, Li Tianxiong, and the others not long ago, had finally defeated them. He had actually achieved such terrifying growth in such a short period of time. Or could it be that this was the strength of Kang Xinmu's own dragon martial artist identity? Previously, he had used the inheritance of the demon god clan to participate in the ranking competition between the royal clans of the demon god clan. It seemed as if he was just playing around. He had not used Kang Xinmu's true strength at all. Of course, the rule at that time was that Kang Xinmu had to use the inheritance of the demon god clan to participate in the competition. But, presumably, to Kang Xinmu at that time, the ranking competition between the younger generation of the royal clan was probably a joke. The strongest was only the strength of a 5th-tier or 6th-tier transcendent god. In Kang Xinmu's eyes, wasn't that a joke? However, they did not know. Even for Kang Xinmu, the ranking competition had been stressful for him. After all, his inheritance of the demon god clan only had the battle strength that he had displayed. Moreover, Kang Xinmu's strength in terms of the inheritance of the dragon god clan was far from what it was now. Recently, he had been devouring the demonic chi rift in the dragon martial continent and had obtained an extremely terrifying improvement. It should be known that when he had just returned to the dragon martial continent, Kang Xinmu had still been under pressure to deal with 8th-tier transcendent god demonic beings. His current strength was completely increased by devouring. Soon, with Kang Xinmu's attack, the demonic chi rift in front of everyone was devoured at the fastest speed possible. Moreover, there were no longer any monsters of the 9th level of the Supreme God realm appearing. Everyone else backed away. Obviously, now, the experts of the Bing Imperial clan had also discovered that the demonic chi rift and demonic creatures on the Longwu continent had nothing to do with their demon god clan. Originally, they had hoped to discover and comprehend something, but it turned out that they had been thinking too much. But even if there was no relationship between them, since they were here, they were too embarrassed to leave just like that. After all, they had used up the resources of the dragon gods in the name of helping to teleport here. After that, they might have to stay in the martial dragon continent and help clear out all the demonic creatures there. Originally, they felt that this would take a very, very long time. But unexpectedly, the appearance of Kang Xinmu gave them hope. According to Kang Xinmu's speed, he would soon be able to clear out all the demonic chi rift on the dragon martial continent. Originally, the speed at which the demonic chi rift appeared was much faster than the speed at which other people cleared out the rift. But now, there was Kang Xinmu. The speed at which he cleared out the demonic chi rift was at least several times faster than the speed at which the demonic chi rift appeared. As the experts of the Bing Imperial clan retreated, they made way for Kang Xinmu. Kang Xinmu did not stand on ceremony. With the most terrifying devouring power, he completely devoured all the power in the demonic chi rift in front of him. It didn't take much time at all. In fact, it was much faster than the speed at which Kang Xinmu devoured the demonic chi rift at the beginning. Too strong. Ice Moon Silk and Murong Lieni watched this scene from behind. They were a little shocked. "I'm going to tell my clansmen," Murong Lieni said excitedly. In fact, she had only come to meet Ice Moon Silk and discuss the recent situation. In the end, she had accidentally bumped into Jiang Shenwu. Furthermore, she had discovered that Jiang Shenwu possessed such tyrannical and terrifying battle prowess. This had completely crushed all the geniuses of the younger generation in her clan. So, she first greeted Kang Xinmu and gave him a location. She left first. The ancient Phoenix clan support group that she was in was currently encircling and clearing out 2 demonic chi rifts nearby. Originally, it would take a long time. But now, with Kang Shinmu's powerful battle power, they would be able to save a lot of time. After receiving the location, Kang Shinmu nodded at her. At this time, there was still a bit of demonic chi rift left. Kang Shinmu planned to devour all of it before considering devouring other demonic chi rifts. He could also help the ancient Phoenix clan. However, the prerequisite was that this place had to be cleaned up, lest the remnant power of the demonic aura crack in this place suddenly created another demonic aura crack, then Jiang Shenwu's efforts would be in vain. So, he had to get rid of all evil. All the power left behind by the demonic chi crack was devoured by Jiang Shenwu, not leaving a single trace behind. Murong Lieni quickly transformed into the body of the ancient Phoenix clan. She flew in the direction of the ancient Phoenix clan. Soon, she found that the ancient Phoenix clan seemed to be in trouble. A total of more than 10 people came to help. Among them, there were 4 seniors at the peak of the Supreme God level, and the others were juniors about the same level as her. There was even a senior brother who was pursuing her. However, Murong Lieni was not interested in other men now. Everyone, hold on. Kang Shinmu will be here soon to help. After Murong Lieni returned and saw that the situation was not right, she immediately went to support and joined the battle. Now, the dozen of them were besieged by several demons at the peak of the Supreme God level. There were a total of 2 demonic chi rifts nearby. At this moment, there were still demons flying out of them, not to mention cleaning them up. This situation put the dozen or so ancient Phoenix clan experts in a precarious situation. Kang Shinmu is coming to help? Among the dozen or so ancient Phoenix clan experts, there were 4 elders at the peak of the Supreme God level. When he heard this, he even doubted if he had heard it wrongly. Kang Shinmu, wasn't that a junior of the dragon gods? He should be in the same generation as Murong Lieni. They remembered that he had just broken through to the super divine dragon realm not long ago. In the end, Murong Lieni actually said that Kang Shinmu was coming to help. This made them feel very strange. How could a junior who had just broken through to the Supreme God level help in such a situation? It was very puzzling. However, they felt that Murong Lieni should not be talking nonsense. After all, she had always been a steady person. Kang Shinmu is the disciple of the dragon gods who helped you achieve nirvana? Chapter 5582. This young man's name was Dugu Tianhua, and he had always been pursuing Murong Lieni. Moreover, in the ancient Phoenix clan, Dugu Tianhua had always appeared as a big brother. After all, his cultivation base had always been higher than Murong Lieni's. A long time ago, before Murong Lieni reached the transcendent god level, Dugu Tianhua was already a powerful existence at the 7th level of the transcendent god level. And now, Murong Lieni was only at the 6th level of the transcendent god level. Although her combat strength could reach the 7th level of the transcendent god level, she could not compare to Dugu Tianhua. This was because Dugu Tianhua was already at the 8th level of the transcendent god level. In this regard, Murong Lieni had consecutively increased her cultivation base by 6 levels, including a major realm. In the end, Dugu Tianhua had only increased his cultivation base by 1 level, which made him seem a little useless. However, everyone knew that from the 7th level of the transcendent god level onwards, the resources needed to improve were more than 10 times more than before. Therefore, no one doubted Dugu Tianhua's talent. They only thought that Murong Lieni's talent was very good. She had actually broken through so many talents in such a short period of time. At this moment, Dugu Tianhua did not hide his disgust for Kang Shinmu. Ever since Murong Lieni met Kang Shinmu and even achieved nirvana because of Kang Shinmu, she had obtained Kang Shinmu's power. Dugu Tianhua felt that Murong Lieni had become even more distant from him. However, he did not think that Murong Lieni was not close to him in the first place. Everything was just his own imagination. Haha. Junior sister Murong, Are you saying that Kang Shinmu is coming to help us? Dugu Tianhua could not help but sneer. Aren't you thinking too highly of him? How can that brat help us? Our 4 elders are still here. Do you think that our 4 elders combined are inferior to that Kang Shinmu? He was very good at stirring up the emotions of others. After hearing his words, the surrounding powerhouses of the ancient Phoenix clan were also a little unhappy. Indeed, didn't Murong words mean that so many powerhouses and elites of the ancient Phoenix clan couldn't even compare to a single Kang Shinmu? Perhaps, Sister Murong is saying that Kang Shinmu is bringing people over to help. Another girl of the ancient Phoenix clan couldn't help but explain to Murong. In her opinion, this explanation was very reasonable. If that was the case, then it was fine. However, there's no need. It's just Kang Shinmu. Murong shook her head and said, I'll help first. When he arrives, we'll be able to solve our predicament. She transformed into the body of the ancient flaming phoenix, and the flames all over her body were even fused with a trace of devouring power. With terrifying power, she swept toward the group of demonic creatures. There were simply too many demonic creatures on the battlefield. Everyone from the ancient Phoenix clan was already passively taking a beating. Even with the addition of Murong, it was still somewhat useless. However, after Murong joined the battlefield, the pressure on the ancient Phoenix clan was greatly reduced. This made everyone heave a sigh of relief. However, they still didn't believe Murong words. They didn't believe that Kang Shinmu alone could solve their current predicament. How could she say such a thing? Especially Dugu Tianhua, whose eyes were filled with a sneer. Under the shroud of fiery red flames, he was fighting against an 8th-level transcendent god demonic creature. They were completely entangled, and the outcome of the battle could not be determined for a long time. Although Dugu Tianhua's cultivation was very high, his actual combat strength did not exceed his cultivation level. It should be known that at this level, even if it was only the same combat strength as his cultivation level, he was already a strong enough existence. How could it be easy to have combat strength that exceeded one's cultivation level? Soon, 2 more 9th-level transcendent god demonic creatures suddenly rushed out of the 2 nearby cracks. There were more and more demonic creatures around them. The ancient Phoenix clan was almost unable to hold on any longer. In fact, they had already called for the other powerhouses of the ancient Phoenix clan to come and support them. However, the other powerhouses were a little far away from them, and they might not be able to make it in time. Big Sister Murong, you said that Kang Shinmu can help us alone. Is that true? The young lady of the ancient Phoenix clan could not help but ask Murong. Of course it's true. Murong nodded affirmatively. However, the young lady of the ancient Phoenix clan still did not quite believe it. Although Kang Shinmu was the direct disciple of Emperor Shi, it was impossible for him to grow so quickly, right? Previously, she heard that he had just broken through to the transcendent god level. How could he be so strong? However, the young lady of the ancient Phoenix clan still believed in Murong. Therefore, she thought that Murong might mean that Kang Shinmu had some special way to solve the predicament in front of him. As for the other members of the ancient Phoenix clan, they did not believe Murong words at all. Could Kang Shinmu alone solve this predicament? It was a joke that was like a dream. However, a moment later, 2 9th-level transcendent god demonic creatures joined the battle, causing the pressure on them to multiply. The 4 young elders of the ancient Phoenix clan who were at the 9th level of the transcendent god realm could not hold on any longer. Right at this moment, in the distant horizon, a pitch-black divine dragon was flying rapidly in their direction. Kang Shinmu is here. Murong was overjoyed when she saw this. Her strength was almost exhausted, and the flames on her body had been extinguished in many places. She looked extremely miserable. Even everyone on her side was in the same situation. There were many more demonic creatures than them, and each of them had to fight against several demonic creatures. The pressure was too great. When she saw Kang Shinmu arrive, she finally heaved a sigh of relief. She knew that, the situation had finally been resolved. However, the other powerhouses of the ancient Phoenix clan did not think that way. They did see Kang Shinmu's black dragon body flying over, and it was really fast. However, could this Kang Shinmu really help them solve their current predicament? Very soon. Kang Shinmu's black dragon body finally whistled over. They are actually so dangerous. They are entangled by so many demonic creatures. Without thinking, Kang Shinmu raised his hand and unleashed the extreme destructive Heaven's Might Dragon Soul. Moreover, he activated the extreme destructive Heaven's Might Dragon Soul of the 33 divine feathers. 9 inky black divine dragon soul bodies appeared in the air around them. Each of them spat out a terrifying black dragon's breath at the demonic creatures in the field. At this moment, the pitch-black dragon's breath condensed from the devouring power erupted and instantly struck the surrounding demonic creatures. Some of the demonic creatures that had not reached the peak of the supreme god level were instantly exploded into pieces. Moreover, even those monsters at the peak of the supreme god level were riddled with holes under the baptism of the terrifying pitch-black dragon breath. They let out angry and painful roars. At this moment, the expressions of everyone in the ancient Phoenix clan changed drastically. Kang Shinmu actually possessed such terrifying combat strength. Chapter 5583. Unfortunately. Whether Dugu Tianhua believed it or not, the truth was right in front of him. Kang Shinmu's appearance instantly lifted everyone's predicament, and almost all the surrounding demonic creatures were wiped out in one fell swoop. Even the few remaining peak supreme god-level demonic creatures were riddled with holes under Kang Shinmu's attack and were on the verge of collapse. After making his move, Kang Shinmu ignored Dugu Tianhua. After all, he didn't know this person at all. The divine dragon body passed by Dugu Tianhua, and then the extreme destructive heavenly might dragon soul erupted again. The pitch-black dragon soul roared, and countless black dragon breaths wreaked havoc everywhere. Not long after, all the demonic creatures present were single-handedly dealt with by Jiang Shenwu. Then, Kang Shinmu flew toward the 2 demon chi cracks, and a pitch-black devouring power burst out from his body, enveloping the 2 demon chi cracks. Enveloping and devouring at the same time. And, the devouring speed was obviously much faster than the others. For a moment, everyone from the ancient Phoenix clan was a little surprised. Dugu Tianhua couldn't believe it at all. He didn't know how to face Murong Lieni now. It was too embarrassing. The girl from the ancient Phoenix clan was also extremely surprised. Sister Lieni, Kang Shinmu, is really as powerful as you said. The girl's eyes were filled with admiration. Of course, why would I lie to you? Murong Lieni was now relieved. It was good that everyone was fine. Then, she told everyone to leave this place first. Kang Shinmu could deal with these 2 demon chi cracks by himself. Thus, the surroundings became quiet. Kang Shinmu alone devoured the 2 demon chi cracks as fast as he could, and his cultivation improved again. The main reason was that the demon chi contained some kind of devouring power. Just like the dragon martial artists of the 5 extremes mysterious ice inheritance, they could absorb the power of 5th grade mysterious ice in the level 5 holy ice grounds to increase their cultivation speed. Kang Shinmu devoured the power of these demon chi cracks, and his devouring power improved a lot. Subsequently, thus, he began to search for demonic chi cracks in the vicinity. A full month later, Kang Shinmu's strength in the dragon gods had already reached the 9th level of the supreme god realm. By devouring the energy in the crack in the demonic aura, he had already grown to the limit of the super divine dragon. At this moment, the speed at which he devoured the demonic chi rift grew faster and faster. In less than 2 hours, he could completely devour a demonic chi rift. In the entire dragon martial continent, the number of demonic chi cracks also decreased under his efforts. Of course, it wasn't just Kang Shinmu's hard work. Many cultivators from all over the world had worked together to protect the dragon martial continent. If it was just Kang Shinmu alone, he would not be able to stop so many monsters from pouring into the dragon's sealing abyss from all directions like a tide. Right now, not a single monster was able to pass through everyone's blockade and enter the dragon's sealing abyss. Kang Shinmu was also very nervous about the dragon's sealing abyss. Nothing could have happened in this place, right? His father was still among them. Unfortunately, he couldn't enter it now. He remembered his father's instructions. He had to reach the level of the ancestral dragon before he could enter the dragon's sealing abyss. Finally, all the demonic chi cracks in the entire dragon martial continent had been cleared. Kang Shinmu alone dealt with more than 90% of the demonic chi cracks. However, he also obtained the tempering of the devouring power from the demonic chi cracks, which could be regarded as a huge improvement. It was almost equivalent to him directly skipping the entire stage of the super divine dragon. After this, many cultivators from other clans left. As for the cultivators of the dragon gods, under the arrangement of Emperor Shi, there began to be peak supreme god realm elders stationed around the dragon's sealing abyss all year round. The dragon gods finally began to pay attention to this place. Everyone breathed a sigh of relief. So did Kang Shinmu. After all, the dragon martial continent was his hometown. He would not watch the dragon martial continent fall. Fortunately, everything was resolved now. However, behind this matter, Kang Shinmu was a little puzzled. Why did these demonic chi cracks appear from all directions in the dragon martial continent? This matter seemed to have happened after Kang Shinmu swallowed a certain dragon scale. Was the dragon scale he swallowed in the demon god realm related to this matter? Everything was still a mystery. Kang Shinmu could not figure it out and did not think about it for the time being. Next, he had more important things to do. Now that he had reached the peak of the super divine dragon, he could enter the ancient relics of the supreme god realm to obtain more powerful resources. In order to prepare himself to advance to the supreme god realm. In other words, in order to break through to the supreme god realm, from the supreme god realm to the supreme god realm, 99% of the cultivators in this world could not cross this step. Once this step was taken, they could achieve the supreme god realm. In this world, the supreme god realm was the current strongest existence. The peak supreme god realm powerhouses ruled countless great worlds. For example, in the demon god realm, Su'er was the peak supreme god realm powerhouse. In the dragon god realm, the dragon soul dragon warriors in the dragon soul holy tower were the strongest supreme god realm powerhouses. They rarely appeared. If I can break through to the supreme god realm, I can go to the dragon soul holy tower. I can try to become a dragon soul dragon warrior. That is the stairway to the ancestral dragon. Kang Shinmu had a deep obsession with this. To break through to the supreme god realm, he needed a huge amount of cultivation resources. He needed to use these cultivation resources to attack and break through. No matter how high Kang Shinmu's cultivation talent was, when breaking through to the supreme god realm, cultivation resources were the foundation of the foundation. For Kang Shinmu, the best way to obtain cultivation resources was naturally the supreme god realm ancient relics. Not only could he obtain a lot of cultivation resources, but he could also obtain all kinds of superpower condensed into sacred items. Before Kang Shinmu set off, he sent Su'er back to the demon god realm. Although she wanted to be with Kang Shinmu, she also understood that the supreme god realm ancient relics were not something she could go to. Even if she had a sacred item with 9 layers of inscriptions and a chaos spirit armor, it was not enough for her to go to that place. Hence, Chapter 5584. Kang Shinmu did not reject Sui's chaos spirit armor. After all, it was Sui's kind intention. This time, Kang Shinmu wanted to go alone. After all, it was a dangerous trip. But just as he was about to leave, someone came to him and wanted to go with him, and he could not reject this person. It was Senior Moya with a gentle voice. To Kang Shinmu, Moya was a senior who had helped him many times. Moya wanted to go with him, so Kang Shinmu could not reject her. After all, he did not have the right to worry about her. After all, Emoya was much more powerful than Kang Shinmu. After all, Emoya had already stepped into the supreme realm a long time ago, and she had inherited the divine force of nature. Hence, Kang Shinmu could only go with Emoya. This time, their destination was the 7th level of the Chaos Battlefield. This was already a very dangerous area. But the Supreme God-level ancient relics were basically all in this area. This time, almost no one knew where Kang Shinmu and Emoya were. Without making a sound, the two of them had already chosen a target and secretly entered the ancient era's remnant. This ancient relic was an extremely dangerous place because even supreme-level experts could die in it. However, the exploration level of this relic was extremely low. Basically, not many people could bring anything out of this relic. That was because many people did not dare to go too deep. Once they went too deep, they might lose their lives. Many people went too deep and never came out. Naturally, there would not be any valuable treasures in the outer area of this ancient relic. If they wanted to obtain something valuable, they had to go deep. As for Jiang Shenwu, he hadn't come to this remnant completely recklessly. Instead, he had studied the remnant's information together with Emoya. This relic, it seemed to have something to do with the devouring power. Because of this, Kang Shinmu chose to come here. When he arrived with Emoya, he found that there was no one guarding the entrance of this ancient relic. It was completely different from the other ancient relic. The other ancient relic belonged to a certain 5 races, and they would definitely not let cultivators from other races enter. And this ancient relic was the complete opposite. There was no need to worry about anyone entering, and no race wanted to take it for themselves. Because, this ancient relic had been discovered for several years. In the end, basically no one brought anything useful out of it, and many experts from the various races were killed inside. Therefore, no race would pay attention to this dragon demon cave, and naturally, no one would send anyone to guard it. In fact, no one would come to this dragon demon cave at all. In recent years, there were very few experts who had entered this dragon demon cave. Moreover, these experts either wandered around in the outer circle for a while before coming out, or never came out after entering the depths. Obviously, this was an extremely dangerous ancient relic. Dragon Demon Dragon. That was the name of this ancient relic. After arriving at the entrance of the historical remnant, Jiang Shenwu and Emoya fell silent. They raised their heads and saw that the entrance to the historical remnant looked like a dragon's head. The pitch-black demonic dragon opened its mouth, revealing an abyss-like aura, as if it was attracting people to enter. The surroundings were filled with chaotic black smoke, giving off a feeling of hell. Are you sure you want to go in with me? This relic is too dangerous after all. Kang Shinmu was silent for a moment, then said to Emoya. Don't worry, it's precisely because it's too dangerous that I want to go with you. Emoya grinned. Her tone was still as gentle as ever. Even in the face of the dragon demon cave, which made countless experts tremble in fear, she had no intention of retreating. If there's any danger, I can break the seal and escape with you. Emoya said with a smile, after entering, don't get separated from me. All right. Kang Shinmu still obeyed Emoya's words. He knew that for this ancient relic exploration, Emoya had actually taken out a Heaven and Earth Saint item given by the Divine Power Shrine. This Heaven and Earth Saint item, it had the power to break the shackles of space. If it were to explode, it could completely shatter space and time. It could even directly go from the great world of the dragon gods to the great world of the demon gods. One had to know that this kind of crossing between two great worlds could basically only rely on the teleportation formation left behind from ancient times. Other than that, even an ordinary Heaven and Earth Saint item with the ability of space would not be able to break the barrier between two great worlds. But, the Heaven and Earth Saint item given to Emoya by the Divine Power Shrine actually had such divine power. Therefore, she had enough confidence to enter this ancient relic with Kang Shinmu, the Dragon Demon Cave. Let's go. Kang Shinmu was the first to transform into a divine dragon. Like a black meteor, he streaked across the sky and flew towards the entrance of the Dragon Demon Cave. As for Emoya, it was much easier. She directly sat on the neck of Kang Shinmu's divine dragon. Her body was soft, and her hands grabbed onto his pitch-black dragon scales. The two of them charged into the dragon demon cave. Immediately, the surroundings became pitch-black. Mist that exuded an ancient aura continuously lingered around them. At this moment, the two of them seemed to have alarmed countless creatures in the dark space. Kang Shinmu had a feeling that there were many creatures living in this dragon demon cave, and it was not a deathly stillness. He continued to advance deeper. Very quickly, some light appeared in the surroundings. In the darkness, there were specks of light that were like fireflies, illuminating the surroundings and decorating an underground plain. The plain was quite vast, and in the dark space, there were specks of light that were like fireflies all along the way. These were all insects that lived in the Dragon Demon Cave. And this was the outer circle of the Dragon Demon Cave. It was a plain, and there was almost nothing on the plain. There were ruins of buildings everywhere, and there was light flashing in the ruins. Upon closer inspection, they were all insects. In this underground plain, Kang Shinmu led Emoya forward. Even if it was just by relying on his perception, Kang Shinmu could confirm that there were no powerful existences in the surrounding plain. All the energy auras that had appeared on this plane had either directly returned, or had directly charged into a deeper place. The black dragon's body flew on an underground plane that was filled with fireflies. This scenery is not bad. Chapter 5585. In the boundless dark wilderness, fireflies danced in the sky. As for Kang Shinmu, he carried Emoya and continued to advance towards the depths of the Dragon Demon Cave. Very quickly, his pitch-black divine dragon body disappeared into the boundless darkness. After passing through this dark wilderness, he felt that the surrounding space seemed to have become more and more viscous. Devour. Kang Shinmu's devouring power covered the surroundings of his divine dragon body, blocking any power that might cause harm to him. Moreover, there was no need for Emoya to make a move. He helped Emoya block any suspicious power in the surroundings. Then, suddenly, Kang Shinmu felt as if he had smashed through a strange layer of space and arrived in another space. In this space, darkness enveloped the entire area. Gradually, two red dots of light slowly appeared from the darkness in front of him. What's that? Emoya was a little surprised. She did not separate from Kang Shinmu. At this moment, seeing the red dots of light appear in the darkness in front of him, he was somewhat vigilant. And Kang Shinmu was naturally very careful. Very quickly, the two dots of light gradually approached, allowing Kang Shinmu to discover it was actually two blood-red tall figures. They were over 1,000 feet tall, like giants that could support the heavens and earth, rushing over. The eyes of the two tall blood-red giants were suffused with a blood-red color. Their surroundings were filled with a blood aura, as if they had rushed out from a mountain of corpses and a sea of blood. A blood-red aura filled the air, bringing the entire space with a bloody aura. This is the Blood Shaman clan's peak transcendent experts. On Kang Shinmu's body, the expression of the white-clothed Emoya changed slightly. However, they seem to have lost their minds, and have become somewhat cruel and bloodthirsty, and their battle prowess seems to have become stronger than ordinary peak transcendent gods. Blood Shaman clan? Kang Shinmu's expression changed slightly. He had heard of this clan before. Although it was not a big clan, there were still many powerful existences in the Blood Shaman clan. Supreme-level powerhouses also emerged one after another, too many to count. However, because the Blood Shaman tribe had too few people, they were not considered a powerful tribe in the All Heavens. Compared to large clans like the Dragon God clan and the Demon God clan, they were completely incomparable. Previously, Kang Shinmu had never come into contact with the existence of the Blood Wizard tribe. He did not expect to encounter one now. Their hostility is very strong. Although I don't know what their current situation is, I can only take action. Kang Shinmu said in a deep voice. Not bad. Moya nodded and said, I'll support you with my divine power. I'll leave the battle to you. His voice fell. Snow-white divine power emanated from her slender hands and wrapped around Kang Shinmu's pitch-black divine dragon body. Under Moya's control, the snow-white holy power quickly seeped into Kang Shinmu's body. This power directly activated the divine dragon blood in Kang Shinmu's body, causing all the dragon blood in Kang Shinmu's body to boil. My power has increased. Kang Shinmu's heart skipped a beat. Moya actually had such an ability. He had not discovered it before. However, it must have been that Moya did not need to support Kang Shinmu in the past. It was more convenient and faster for her to act on her own. But now, Moya was very confident in Kang Shinmu's strength, so she directly assisted him. Kang Shinmu did not let Moya down. His pitch-black divine dragon body instantly rushed forward. The two Supreme God Peak Blood Shaman tribe experts rushed toward Kang Shinmu from the left and right respectively. Blood-colored power drew a blood-red meteor in the dark space. Boom. Bang. Two blood-colored fists swept over, but were blocked by Kang Shinmu's pitch-black curtain of despair. A total of 9 layers of curtain of despair directly blocked the opponent's two blood-colored fists. Countless blood-colored power flew wildly in all directions and shook, but it could not break through Kang Shinmu's curtain of despair at all. Immediately after, one of the Blood Shaman tribe experts stomped heavily on the dark ground with his legs. His entire body, which was tens of thousands of feet tall, exploded with blood. Like a ray of blood-colored light, it forcefully broke through the 9 layers of pitch-black curtain of despair and shattered all 9 layers of barriers. The shattered curtain of despair shattered in the endless blood-colored light. But at this moment, Kang Shinmu's divine dragon body was no longer in its original spot. Instead, it flew higher. A total of 9 pitch-black dragon souls rose from the surrounding space and condensed. Extreme destructive heavenly might dragon soul. Countless beams of black dragon breath instantly erupted from all directions and concentrated on one of the Blood Shaman clan powerhouses. The next moment, the pitch-black dragon breath beams descended and bombarded the body of the Blood Shaman tribe expert, producing a terrifying thunderous roar. There was no communication between the two parties at all. The moment they met, they erupted with their strongest combat power. They did not hold back at all when they attacked. That was because Kang Shinmu could clearly sense that the two peak supreme god experts of the Blood Shaman tribe seemed to have completely lost their minds, so there was no possibility of communication. One of the Blood Shaman tribe experts was targeted by his extreme destructive heavenly might dragon soul. Terrifying blood-colored light constantly splattered under the bombardment of the pitch-black dragon blood. However, his physical body was too terrifying, and his ability to resist attacks had reached an indescribable level. Even Kang Shinmu was a little impressed. As for the other Blood Shaman tribe expert, he continued to rush towards Kang Shinmu like a red bolt of lightning. A violent power erupted in an instant, blooming in front of Kang Shinmu. The curtain of despair that he had barely managed to open was shattered by the other party's explosion. Blood splattered, and then all the blood light condensed together. Countless blood-colored lights condensed into a giant blood-red fist mark in midair. Then, it suddenly attacked Kang Shinmu, and the sound of it tearing through the air almost cut the surrounding space apart. There seemed to be the faint cries of countless vengeful souls and the roars of ghosts. Transform, defensive battle patterns. The formless weapon in Kang Shinmu's hand, Qin Xing, had completely transformed into a defensive battle pattern at this moment, and the effect of the Golden Bath Divine Stone in the dragon weapon was also triggered. The effect of the defensive battle pattern had increased by 10 times at this moment. He had not used this function much before. After all, there had never been a need for it. But now, facing these two peak supreme god experts of the Blood Shaman tribe, he had to go all out. Although he did not know what was going on with these two peak supreme god experts of the Blood Shaman tribe, Kang Shinmu would definitely not let himself be captured. Chapter 5586. The gigantic blood-red fist, accompanied by the wails of ghosts and howls of wolves, swept towards Kang Shinmu. the surrounding space seemed to have turned blood red. It was as if hell had descended, enveloping Jiang Shenwu's entire body. An even stronger pitch-black canopy of despair appeared around Kang Shinmu. In the next moment, it blocked all the roaring blood-red waves, and when the gigantic blood-red fist bombarded the canopy of despair, a terrifying spatial vibration erupted, sweeping out in all directions. The blood-red fluctuation spread across the entire area, but Kang Shinmu's canopy of despair did not budge. This was the effect of the formless weapon, Qin Xing, paired with the divine golden soup stone, and this was far from the limit of what Kang Shinmu could achieve. At this moment, the Blood Shaman clan powerhouse that was besieged by Kang Shinmu's extreme destructive heavenly might dragon soul had already broken through the surrounding dark dragon breath. It continued to rush towards Kang Shinmu, and the sky was filled with blood-red light, blooming into countless blood-red heads, heading towards the extreme destructive heavenly might dragon soul released by Kang Shinmu. The blood-red heads opened their bloody mouths, and several of them besieged the extreme destructive heavenly might dragon soul. The pitch-black divine dragon shadow was directly surrounded by the blood-red heads, tearing at it. Like a ferocious beast tearing its prey, the pitch-black dragon shadows were torn apart one after another. But, extreme destructive heavenly might dragon soul. Kang Shinmu's formless weapon, Qin Xing, turned into a bolt of lightning that enveloped his body, and the power of the 33 divine feathers was released once again. A total of 11 extreme destructive heavenly might dragon souls were released. In the dark space, endless pitch-black dragon breath was swallowing and spitting out, launching a ferocious attack towards the two Blood Shaman clan powerhouses. When Kang Shinmu attacked, the Blood Shaman clan powerhouses also fought back. Bursts of blood-red light bloomed in the entire area, and the sound of explosions rang out incessantly. For a moment, Kang Shinmu was actually tied with the other party. These two Blood Shaman clan powerhouses are very strong. However, they no longer have any consciousness. Could it be that they lost themselves in this dark dragon devil cave? Kang Shinmu thought to himself. For the time being, he couldn't get an answer. As both sides were evenly matched, Moya's divine power was once again unleashed on Kang Shinmu. Kang Shinmu's black dragon body was like a dazzling white light, blossoming with astonishing radiance. Kang Shinmu felt that every attack and every defense he made was accompanied by a tyrannical divine aura. The power poured out like a flood and poured into the bodies of the two Blood Shaman tribe powerhouses. With Moya's help, Kang Shinmu's battle prowess skyrocketed, and he instantly suppressed his opponent. Kang Shinmu continued to release the extreme annihilation heaven might dragon souls. More and more black dragon phantoms condensed in the dark space. Then, he spat out pitch-black dragon breaths at the two Blood Shaman tribe powerhouses. They collided with the countless blood-colored heads and giant blood-colored fists of the Blood Shaman tribe powerhouses. Several layers of the surrounding space were shattered, and heavy shockwaves spread in all directions. In this darkness, it seemed that only Kang Shinmu and the other three existed. No matter how far the spatial fluctuation spread, there was no response. It made one feel as if they were in a desperate situation. Jiang Shenwu, on the other hand, fought steadily. After familiarizing himself with the other party's strength, he once again released his devouring power, directly enveloping the two Blood Shaman tribe powerhouses. A terrifying power covered the sky and earth. It enveloped the two Blood Shaman tribe powerhouses. The wind of darkness swept through the entire area, like a terrifying devourer, and began to devour all the power of the two Blood Shaman tribe powerhouses. Kang Shinmu's resistance to the power of the Blood Shaman tribe powerhouses, the power of blood, began to increase. Moreover, he converted the opponent's power into his own, recovering all the energy he had lost in the previous battle. As he attacked, the black dragon roared, and the blood-colored sky was gradually enveloped by the pitch-black devouring power. On the other hand, Moya's divine power couldn't help Jiang Shenwu in this aspect. However, it was of great help to Jiang Shenwu when he defended and resisted the opponent's attacks. The strongest level that Kang Shinmu could resist was related to his defensive ability. The stronger Kang Shinmu's defense was, the more he could resist the opponent's attack. Kang Shinmu only needed to resist the opponent's attack, and he could gradually turn the situation around through the devouring power. Even if his current strength was not as good as the opponent's, he did not need to be afraid at all. At this moment, with Emoya's help, Kang Shinmu's defense soared, and he easily resisted the attacks of the two blood shaman tribe powerhouses. Then, he began to counterattack through the devouring power. The endless power of blood was devoured by Kang Shinmu, and it became a super strong guarantee for him to resist the power of blood. At this moment, the sky was filled with bright red blood, and it surged toward Kang Shinmu like a tide. It was like a wave, like a tsunami, blotting out the sky and covering the earth. However, the pitch-black divine dragon body that Kang Shinmu had transformed into was like a tiger returning to the forest, or a dragon returning to the sea. It was as if he was swimming in an ordinary ocean. If it were any other peak transcendent god-dragon martial artist, they would have long been corroded by the terrifying and bloody scarlet ocean in such an environment. The terrifying corrosive power kept trying to corrode the scales of Kang Shinmu's black dragon body, but Kang Shinmu blocked them all. As for where Emoya was, Kang Shinmu specially separated a small part of the devouring power to protect her. This did not require too much energy. After all, Emoya was an existence that cultivated the power of nature, and she did not have any inherited body that could transform. It was too easy to protect her. Under the protection of the devouring power, there was no possibility of Emoya being injured. Moreover, she was still continuously releasing divine power to envelop Kang Shinmu's black dragon body, further strengthening Kang Shinmu's defense. However, very soon, Emoya seemed to have realized something. She did not need to strengthen Kang Shinmu now. Kang Shinmu's own strength alone was enough to resist the joint attack of the two blood shaman tribe powerhouses. As expected of you. Emoya revealed a gentle smile and retracted her snow-white hand. Although the situation was tense and dangerous, under Kang Shinmu's protection, she felt extremely calm. It was as if she was taking a leisurely walk with Kang Shinmu by the sea. There was no pressure at all. All of this, it was all because Kang Shinmu had borne all the pressure. All the monstrous blood-red waves either formed a blood-red head or a blood-red giant fist. No matter how they attacked, they could not pose any threat to Kang Shinmu. Over time. Chapter 5587. The endless power of the blood shaman clan was devoured by Kang Shinmu. It was as if endless blood was surging and surging in Kang Shinmu's black dragon body before it was completely absorbed by his black dragon body. As Kang Shinmu's resistance to the power of the blood shaman clan became stronger, he completely ignored the opponent's random attacks and directly attacked one of the blood shaman clan powerhouses. The black dragon's body was like a swimming fish in the dark space, traversing the endless blood color. In the next moment, it appeared in front of the blood shaman clan powerhouse. Then, the dragon's soul of extreme destructive heavenly might condensed in the surrounding sea of blood. As Kang Shinmu's formless weapon Qin Xing transformed all the battle patterns into a supply position, a total of 33 dark divine dragon shadows appeared around him at this moment. Countless pitch-black dragon breaths spewed out and instantly drowned the blood shaman clan powerhouse. The terrifying power exploded in an instant and countless blood-colored power surged away. It was a complete suppression. This was Kang Shinmu's strongest attack. Most importantly, the blood shaman clan powerhouse had been weakened to the extreme by Kang Shinmu's devouring power. This wave of dragon's soul of extreme destructive heavenly might's dark dragon breath immediately pierced countless holes in the blood shaman clan powerhouse's body. In the next moment, the blood shaman clan powerhouse's body collapsed in all directions, turned into blood color, and completely collapsed before exploding. This scene caused Kang Shinmu's expression to change slightly. This situation was a little different from what he had imagined. The other party actually exploded after being defeated. It was obvious that the other party was in a very special state. Soon, Kang Shinmu did not have time to think about it. He had to first defeat the other blood shaman clan powerhouse. Then, countless pitch-black dragon breaths burst out and killed the Blood Shaman clan powerhouse as well. Then, this expert from the Blood Shaman clan was just like the guy from before. After being defeated, his physical body completely collapsed and shattered into endless blood colors. It bloomed as if he had exploded. The place suddenly quietened down, but Jiang Shenwu realized that if it wasn't him, it would be extremely dangerous even if it was someone else, even now. That was because the blood that exploded from the two Blood Shaman clan experts was extremely corrosive. Only Kang Shinmu was immune to it. If it were any other Peak Supreme God Realm expert, they would have been turned into blood. These two experts from the Blood Shaman clan are too strong. Kang Shinmu could not help but ask. Not bad. Moya nodded and replied softly, if it was an ordinary peak transcendent god, they wouldn't be a match for them. Kang Shinmu, when you were in the Dragon Martial Continent, you were already in existence that could crush all the peak supreme gods. They don't even need to use much power to kill peak transcendent gods. But now, these two Blood Shaman clan powerhouses are really powerful. Moreover, there's something wrong with the two Blood Shaman clan powerhouses. It looks like they've lost their minds and are being controlled by some power or existence. That's why they're like this. Kang Shinmu nodded in response to Moya's analysis. He felt the same way. It was obvious that there was something wrong with the two Blood Shaman clan members. Moreover, they exploded after dying. This was equivalent to self-destructing. Although the warriors of the Blood Shaman clan were very reckless, they were not crazy to this extent. Let's continue forward. Kang Shinmu did not know what he would encounter next. But since he had already come this far, he could only continue forward. What made him a little serious was that he did not feel any power related to the devouring power from the two Blood Shaman clan experts. However, the entire Dragon Demon Cave was filled with the aura of the devouring power. In that case, what kind of power had these two Blood Shaman clan experts been affected by? The two of them continued forward. Soon, they seemed to have smashed through a layer of space barrier and arrived in another space. This space was still in a completely dark state, but there were some faint starlight twinkling around. Kang Shinmu stopped there with Moya, keeping an eye on their surroundings. Soon, Kang Shinmu discovered that the starlight around him seemed to have gathered and formed two star giants, Star Tribe. Moya's expression changed slightly. She did not expect to encounter people from the Star Tribe here. Star Tribe? Why haven't I heard of it? Kang Shinmu was a little puzzled. This tribe was quite famous more than 10 years ago, Moya replied solemnly. Moya replied solemnly, however, 10 years ago, the Star Tribe seemed to have encountered a terrifying existence. A great calamity destroyed the entire Star Tribe's world. Since then, there has been no news of any Star Tribe cultivators. With Moya's explanation, Kang Shinmu quickly understood that the Star Tribe was different from the power of inheritance of the starry sky. The power of the starry sky was a type of power of nature. It was a method of controlling nature that humans cultivated. But the Star Tribe had inherited the Star Ancestor from ancient times. The Star Ancestor's ability to control the starry sky far surpassed that of the humans of ancient times. Even the peak of the power of the starry sky could not be compared to the Star Ancestor. Of course, the power that the Star Tribe controlled was not even 1/10,000th of the Star Ancestor. But they were already a powerful existence among the 10,000 races. It was a pity that the world of the Star Tribe had been destroyed. Although it was unknown what power had destroyed it, the Star Tribe had disappeared without a trace. Who would have thought that they would appear in the Dragon Demon Cave now? This is very likely a cultivator who entered the Dragon Demon Cave a long time ago. These two giants of the Star Tribe could also be experts of the Star Tribe who wandered outside after the world of the Star Tribe was destroyed. They wanted to enter the Dragon Demon Cave to search for secrets, but in the end, they died here. Kang Shinmu said in a low voice. If we die here, we might be like them, and become part of the protection of this place. Moya pursed her lips and smiled. Nonsense. Kang Shinmu laughed. How could we die here? As soon as he finished speaking, he transformed into a black divine dragon and charged towards one of the giants of the Star Tribe. Because he had just experienced an intense battle, the brilliant treasure, the 33 Heavens divine feather, could still explode with its peak power. At this moment, 33 black dragon shadows swept out and appeared in the surroundings. Countless dragon breaths were like torrential rain, spewing towards one of the giants of the Star Tribe. And the giant of the Star Tribe, in the face of such an attack, only raised his hand and there was a layer of starry barrier, blocking all the black dragon breaths. A terrifying power spread out, and countless black dragon breaths rippled out in all directions. This power is a little like the power of inheritance of the starry sky. Chapter 55-88. The two giants of the Star Tribe, one on the left and one on the right, were already attacking Kang Shinmu. When they attacked, they waved their hands and there was an endless amount of star power. The super strong power inherited from the star ancestor was like a wave, surging towards Kang Shinmu. Kang Shinmu's divine dragon body rushed forward at this moment. His body was surrounded by waves of pitch-black devouring power, which condensed into dark canopies and headed towards the other party. At this moment, the power of both sides collided with a loud bang, and then exploded in all directions. Kang Shinmu's dark canopies were shattered layer by layer. After all, Kang Shinmu had only absorbed the strong power of the blood sorcerer tribe previously and had a resistance to blood attribute power, but he didn't have a resistance to star power. Hence, his dark canopies were almost unable to block the attack of the other party's star power. Waves of terrifying star power poured down like the Milky Way, engulfing Kang Shinmu's dark canopies and smashing them into pieces. Fortunately, Kang Shinmu's 33 Heavens God Plume had been activated to its strongest state. He could casually release any dragon martial technique and release it multiple times, which was equivalent to releasing it 33 times consecutively. With a casual attack, 33 layers of dark canopies swept forward, bringing along Kang Shinmu's divine dragon body and charging out of this boundless, dark space. Layers of dark canopies were shattered. However, at the same time, Kang Shinmu engulfed the other party's star power. Kang Shinmu's current devouring power was extremely strong, and the speed of his devouring had reached an unprecedented level. The strong combat power of a peak supreme god erupted at this moment. All the devouring power surrounded the surroundings, completely absorbing and engulfing the star power that was slanting towards him. Turning it into his own energy. Turning it into his own resistance to star power. What's more, it transformed into a deeper understanding of the power of the stars. The two experts from the Star Clan were at the peak of Supreme God realm. Kang Shinmu's cultivation of starry sky was far from that level. Therefore, when Kang Shinmu engulfed the astral ancestor's astral powers, the legacy powers that originally belonged to the astral ancestor were completely engulfed and absorbed by Kang Shinmu. It became a part of his understanding of the power of the stars. For Kang Shinmu, the power of the stars was a stepping stone for him to upgrade his starry sky inheritance. In comparison, it was much faster than devouring the legacy elixirs he had prepared in the starry sky pocket world. Because these pills were provided according to the current cultivation of the cultivator who cultivated the power of the starry sky. For example, those at the first level of the transcendent god realm could only obtain the starry sky inheritance elixir suitable for those at the first level of the transcendent god realm. The other pills would not be released. However, things were different now. What Kang Shinmu engulfed was the power of the Star Clan experts at the peak of Supreme God realm. Although the specific form of the power was different from the power of the starry sky, the core was the same. All of them belonged to the power of the stars. For Jiang Shenwu, this was definitely a great supplement. In a short period of time, Kang Shinmu had already engulfed a huge amount of star power and made a breakthrough in his starry sky inheritance. And it was a series of breakthroughs. Kang Shinmu did not stop at all. The body of the black dragon was surrounded by endless engulfing power. Then, the Golden Divine Stone and the Emperor Nuwa's Sacred Heavenly Rose Stone, these two defensive materials exploded with terrifying power. They formed an indestructible super barrier around Kang Shinmu. Because he realized that the two experts from the Star Clan seemed to have realized how powerful Kang Shinmu was at this moment. They started to perform more terrifying attacks. One of the experts from the Star Clan raised his hand to the sky. Endless star power condensed in his giant palm and gradually formed a ball of stars. The ball of stars, under the control of the expert from the Star Clan, swept toward Kang Shinmu quickly. Transform all of them into defensive battle patterns. Emperor Nuwa Sacred Heavenly Rose Stone. Kang Shinmu's dragon soldier Chen Xing released the most terrifying effect at this moment. Endless defensive battle patterns surrounded his body of the black dragon. Under the enhancement of the Golden Divine Stone, he had a defense effect that surpassed the peak of Supreme God Realm. The next moment, the ball of stars crashed and exploded on top of Kang Shinmu's engulfing power. Endless star power exploded from the ball. It exploded in all directions. At that moment, the surrounding space was filled with the boundless power of the stars. In fact, after Jiang Shenwu took action, the power of the stars exploded wave after wave. It spread in all directions and then gathered again. These star power, after being blocked, will attack again. The star martial technique of the Star Clan is so strong. Moya, who was sitting on the neck of Kang Shinmu's divine dragon, said in surprise. If it were an ordinary person, it would be really difficult to resist such star shock waves. But to me, these shock waves are no threat at all. Kang Shinmu's engulfing power surrounded the surroundings. Under the fierce attack of the star power, the black divine dragon's body seemed to be swimming in the sea of stars. There was no pressure at all. His defense was too strong. Although the two experts from the Star Clan had strength that surpassed the ordinary peak of Supreme God Realm. But in the face of Kang Shinmu's terrifying defense, they still could not break through Kang Shinmu's defense. Under such circumstances, Kang Shinmu's engulfing power surrounded the surroundings and constantly devoured and absorbed the star shock waves that were pouring in from all directions. If it were anyone else, they would not be able to resist it. But in Kang Shinmu's eyes, the waves of star power were his way of improving. After he devoured the power of the stars, his understanding of the power of the stars was further enhanced. Moreover, his body's resistance to the star power was getting stronger and stronger. Star Power Inheritance. Supreme God Tier 4. Supreme God Tier 5. Supreme God Tier 6. Kang Shinmu was a little shocked by the speed of his improvement. The endless star power in his divine dragon's body continued to circulate and absorb, vibrate everywhere, and then be completely absorbed and digested by him. His cultivation of the starry sky inheritance was rising layer by layer. It was not until he reached the Supreme God Tier 6 that Kang Shinmu's star power inheritance cultivation level finally calmed down and the speed of improvement slowed down. But this wave of rapid breakthrough made him have a deeper understanding of the space attribute void power. Chapter 5589. As Kang Shinmu's comprehension of space continued to increase, it was as if he could feel some kind of power contained in the surrounding space. It was this power that had trapped the experts of the Blood Shaman clan and the Star Clan here, and had even become an existence that had come to stop them. To Kang Shinmu and Moya, these experts had probably come to explore the Dragon Demon Cave, and were then trapped in it. Instead, they had become the guardian of the Dragon Demon Cave. If we want to find the true treasures that belong to this Dragon Demon Cave, it is very likely that we will need to kill all the experts who have invaded this Dragon Demon Cave before. Moya gently speculated. Kang Shinmu nodded his head and said, "That's right, but these people are all experts at the peak of the Supreme God level. Although they have all been strengthened, to me, they are not particularly difficult to deal with. But it is not the same for others." Moya laughed softly and said, "For others, this kind of endless battle is the most tiring. It is very likely that they can defeat their opponents at the beginning, but, over time, as the battle continues, they will not be able to continue fighting. More and more tired. More and more tired. The energy in my body is being consumed more and more. In the end, I am unable to defeat the remaining enemies. Mo Ya's words made Kang Shinmu nod his head. He also clearly understood the most terrifying thing about the Dragon Demon Cave. It was this endless battle. First it was the Blood Shaman clan, then it was the Star clan. Every time an opponent appeared, they would be at the peak of the Supreme God level. Perhaps many cultivators could deal with them at the beginning, but as time passed, they were really unable to deal with such endless battles. But all of this, to Kang Shinmu, did not matter at all. Because, every time he attacked, he could ensure that he was in the most perfect state. All the energy that he consumed in battle could be converted by devouring his opponent's energy, allowing him to always be at his peak state. In this way, Kang Shinmu could fight continuously in this dark space. He did not need to rest, he did not need to heal, and he did not need to stop. The existence of the devouring power made him completely different from all the other cultivators who had entered the Dragon Demon Cave. None of the cultivators had the same conditions as Kang Shinmu, whether it was the Blood Wizard clan, the Star clan, or even the seniors from the Dragon God clan and the Demon God clan who might appear. No matter what kind of opponent appeared in front of him, for Kang Shinmu, he was ready to fight. At this moment, facing the two experts of the Star tribe, Kang Shinmu transformed into the body of a black demonic dragon and was surrounded by the devouring power. It was constantly devouring the power of the surrounding stars. In the continuous battle, Kang Shinmu was not in a hurry to defeat the two experts from the Star tribe. Instead, he devoured their energy first. When he had devoured enough of his opponent's power, his resistance to the Star attribute had reached its peak. This allowed him to face the upcoming challenges in the most stable state. He could devour all the damage of all the attributes to the strongest resistance. At this moment, Kang Shinmu confirmed that his opponent's power would not be of much help to him in improving the power of the starry sky. Finally, he decided to defeat the two experts from the Star tribe. When the expert from the Star tribe attacked, his hand was full of starlight. However, all the starlight was devoured by Kang Shinmu's devouring power. Then, the dragon's soul of extreme destructive heavenly might exploded in all directions. A total of 33 black dragon soul shadows appeared in this incomparably dark space. Then, the two experts from the Star tribe each exploded with a terrifying black dragon breath attack. Although one attack could not break the opponent's defense, the opponent's defense was constantly being weakened by Kang Shinmu's devouring power. In the darkness, the terrifying devouring power bloomed. In the end, the two experts from the Star tribe could not withstand the attack of Kang Shinmu's dragon's soul of extreme destructive heavenly might. However, as the two experts from the Star tribe were defeated, in the darkness ahead, just as Mo Ya had expected, two indomitable and powerful existences appeared again. This time, it's the experts from the Bone Royal tribe. They were two super powerful existences who possessed the inheritance of the Bone Royal tribe. In the past, Kang Shinmu had seen experts like Yuhan and Jing Luo from the Bone Royal tribe. However, he did not know much about the combat power of the Bone Royal tribe. Among them, Yuhan had cultivated the power of the starry sky. Now that the experts from the Bone Royal tribe had appeared, although Kang Shinmu respected them, he still had to defeat them. Otherwise, it would be impossible for him to pass through this dark space to find the deep secrets of the cave of the demonic dragon. This place, it was very likely to have something to do with the devouring power. In other words, it could be related to the existence of the chaotic heaven devouring dragon. Kang Shinmu had to go to the deepest part. Now, the answer to why no one had ever come out alive after entering had appeared. For Kang Shinmu, the biggest problem had been solved. At least, he was not afraid of these rounds of attrition warfare. No matter how many opponents appeared, no matter how long the battle went on, Kang Shinmu would not be afraid. When the experts from the Bone Royal tribe appeared, Kang Shinmu transformed into a black super mystical dragon and rushed towards them. Countless terrifying powers of the Bone Royal tribe, accompanied by some kind of bloody light, descended from the sky and attacked Kang Shinmu's black dragon body. Countless white bones formed bone arrows and pierced towards the canopy of despair around Kang Shinmu. At this time, even Emoya felt a little threatened. After all, these white bone arrows had the ability to penetrate. It seemed that even Kang Shinmu could not protect her. However, Kang Shinmu did not let her worry. He raised his hand and used the most intense devouring power to form a layer of whirlpool barrier to protect the area where she was. This was another sky-devouring dragon martial technique in addition to the 1,000-directional destruction of the sky-devouring dragon. Kang Shinmu had now begun to comprehend the sky-devouring dragon martial technique one by one. Although he had only comprehended it to the initial human level, it had already surpassed the ordinary strongest super-mystical dragon martial technique. At this time, the endless black devouring power condensed into layers of horrifying whirlpools, directly protecting Emoya. Sky-devouring absolute whirlpool. When the sky-devouring dragon martial technique was released, Emoya suddenly felt very stable. It was as if she could not encounter any danger within the whirlpool barrier. In fact, this was the case. Unless the opponent's combat power was much stronger than Kang Shinmu's, all attacks would not be able to break through the layer of whirlpool barrier. Instead, they would be devoured by the whirlpool barrier. Chapter 5590. The heaven-devouring whirlpool from Kang Shinmu formed layers of incomparably thick barriers, protecting Emoya within. All the white bone arrows were swallowed up by the heaven-devouring whirlpool and turned into a part of Kang Shinmu's strength. Emoya was not idle either. When Kang Shinmu was in battle, she used the divine power to enhance the strength of Kang Shinmu's whole body. The auxiliary effect of the divine power was very good. It made Kang Shinmu's talent power more than double under the enhancement. This was not the effect of 1 + 1 = 2. After having Emoya, Kang Shinmu's combat power had more than doubled. Without the help of this gentle woman, it would not have been so easy for Kang Shinmu to defeat the experts from the Blood Witch clan and the Star tribe. Soon, as Kang Shinmu protected Emoya properly, the heaven-devouring 1,000-square break, the heaven-devouring dragon was released again. The terrifying devouring power swept around and formed a surging devouring whirlpool, shrouding one of the experts from the Bone Royal family. And, the effect of the 33 Heavens God plume was activated at this time, and 33 devouring whirlpools appeared, surging towards the expert from the Bone Royal family. Kang Shinmu's devouring power spread all over the place, filling up the entire dark space. All the power released by the Bone Royal family experts were all devoured by Kang Shinmu. This time, he already had experience, so when he devoured the power around him, he did not miss a single bit. This allowed him to devour the power of the Bone Royal family to a certain extent in a short period of time. His resistance to the power of the Bone Royal family's inheritance had reached the maximum in this short period of time. Then, Kang Shinmu attacked the first expert from the Bone Royal family with all his might. The heaven-devouring 1,000-square break, endless devouring whirlpools swept towards the opponent, shrouding him. Finally, after a while, the body of the Bone Royal family's inheritance was smashed into pieces. Following closely behind, there was another expert from the Bone Imperial family. For Kang Shinmu, there was not much pressure. At this point, Kang Shinmu had already figured out the situation in the Dragon Devil Cave. The only thing he could do now was to persevere. In the dark space, Kang Shinmu and Emoya were together, fighting together against the enemy. After the two experts from the Bone Imperial family, they encountered more and more experts. Every time, there would be two experts, which seemed to correspond to Kang Shinmu and Emoya. Most of the powerhouses that appeared were from different races. Of course, there were also the same races, such as the Blood Shaman clan. They had encountered a total of 6 Blood Shaman clan powerhouses 3 times. Every time, the opponent he encountered was very strong. With the support of the Blood Red power, he was a powerful existence that surpassed the pinnacle of the Supreme God level. Every single one of them could easily crush all the supreme deity-level elders of a holy land in the outside world. But to Kang Shinmu, these opponents were not particularly strong. And this kind of battle was completely endless. In such a battle, Kang Shinmu did not have any problems. After all, he could obtain the strength of the enemy through devouring, so that he could always maintain his peak state. But Emoya, this gentle woman, could not hold on. Every few days, Kang Shinmu would let her rest on his black dragon scale neck, while he hovered in this dark space, curled up, and used all his strength to protect her. During this period, Kang Shinmu would not take the initiative to attack the surrounding experts. After all, after he had devoured enough of the enemy's strength, even if he stayed still, he would not be injured by the opponent. The current Jiang Shenwu, through various enhancements, had already reached a terrifying level of physical strength with his divine dragon body. Then, after Emoya had rested, Kang Shinmu would continue to attack, defeating the current opponent. And then continue. And so on and so forth. Sister Emoya, how many experts have we defeated? One day, Kang Shinmu suddenly asked. 75 times, a total of 150 people. Emoya sighed and said, I wonder how many experts are left in this Dragon Devil Cave. They all came to explore this Dragon Devil Cave before, but I didn't expect them all to be trapped here. Other than you, I'm afraid no one can last so long here. No wonder no one has ever been able to leave the Dragon Devil Cave alive. Hearing Emoya's words, Kang Shinmu felt a little emotional. This Dragon Devil Cave was indeed too terrifying. If an ordinary person came here, how could they continue fighting for such a long time without rest? If even Emoya could not hold on, then there was no need to mention Kang Shinmu. It wasn't that Emoya couldn't hold on for a few days. The main thing was that she couldn't maintain her peak state for too long when she was fighting with all her might. Therefore, Kang Shinmu simply let her rest for a few hours, then wake up and continue fighting. To Kang Shinmu, he had no idea how many experts had entered the Dragon Devil Cave before. He didn't know when he would be able to defeat all the experts and enter the depths of the Dragon Devil Cave. Therefore, Kang Shinmu had to keep Emoya in his peak state as much as possible, so as to deal with any possible situations that might occur, and this endless battle continued for an unknown period of time. Until Emoya recorded that Kang Shinmu had already defeated more than 300 experts from various races, all of this was still not over. Among these experts, Jiang Shenwu saw experts from the Dragon God clan, as well as experts from the Demon God clan. There were even experts who cultivated the power of nature like him and Emoya. Every expert had a blood-red energy that increased their fighting strength, causing their fighting strength to surpass that of ordinary experts at the peak of the Transcendent God realm. To the other cultivators at the peak of the Transcendent God realm who were able to enter this place, every opponent that appeared in the Dragon Devil Cave was an existence that surpassed the peak of the Transcendent God realm. Every single opponent was enough for them to use all their strength to deal with. Under such circumstances, how long could those cultivators hold on? A day? 2 days? Even a month? It was impossible. No matter who it was, unless they had a devouring power like Kang Shinmu's, they wouldn't be able to hold on any longer. Even if he took some pills, it would be impossible for him to hold on until he defeated more than 300 experts who had surpassed the peak of the Transcendent God realm. Even for a supreme expert like Emoya, after suppressing her own cultivation, after entering the Dragon Devil Cave, she was unable to use her own supreme level of power. Under such circumstances, even Emoya couldn't defeat so many supreme experts at the peak of the Transcendent God realm, let alone other supreme cultivators. In other words, Chapter 5591. In the endless battles, Kang Shinmu had already faced off against many experts of the Dragon God clan and the Demon God clan. These experts were all seniors who were once at the peak of the Transcendent God realm, but now, they were all buried in this Dragon Demon Cave, becoming a barrier that prevented others from exploring the Dragon Demon Cave. At first, Kang Shinmu felt a little uncomfortable, but he quickly realized that these seniors, in fact, they had already died here. What appeared in front of them now was only a puppet image condensed by the dragon demon cave. Therefore, Kang Shinmu did not feel guilty. He wanted to know, after he killed all of these senior puppets once, what kind of scene would appear in front of him. 1 day, 2 days. 10 days, 20 days, because there were still many cultivators who had entered the dragon demon cave to explore. Even though Kang Shinmu had taken care of more than 10 people every day, he still fought for an entire month in the dragon demon cave. Kang Shinmu's speed of settling things was still very fast, and it could even be said to be neat and tidy. This was because during the battle, the 33 Heavens Divine Plume was always in its hottest state. Any dragon skill that Kang Shinmu released would be able to explode with 33 layers. As a result, every time a new opponent appeared, Kang Shinmu would be able to quickly enter the state and explode with his strongest and most terrifying strength. Moreover, in the battle of the Dragon Demon Cave, every time an opponent appeared, it would be a little stronger than the last. It was because he had obtained some kind of blood energy that came from the depths of the Dragon Demon Cave. Moreover, the increase in strength was getting stronger and stronger. Fortunately, Kang Shinmu's battle prowess was also getting stronger and stronger. During the battle, he was constantly devouring the power of various experts and transforming that power into his own. This greatly increased his resistance to all kinds of powers, to the point where it was close to immunity, allowing Kang Shinmu to be in an invincible position. With a strong recovery ability and a strong defense ability, Kang Shinmu and Emoya finally passed the most difficult stage of the Dragon Demon Cave after a month. And just as Kang Shinmu defeated the last 2 experts of the ancient Phoenix clan, in front of the entire dark space, a ray of light suddenly appeared. Following this ray of light, a palace space gradually appeared around Kang Shinmu and Emoya. This was an indescribably vast palace. Its length, width, and height were all tens of thousands of feet, and it was difficult to see the end with a single glance. The surrounding walls of the palace were all made from black boulders, as if they were poured with black iron, giving off a heavy and profound feeling. The Dragon Demon Cave is actually a palace? Kang Shinmu was a little shocked. Looking at the surrounding pitch-black stone walls, there was a pitch-black smoky luster everywhere, as if they were in a black illusion. Afraid, he was one of the very few people who could witness such a scene. Apart from him and Emoya, all the other cultivators who had entered the Dragon Demon Cave had fallen in the first round. Perhaps only the first batch of cultivators to enter the Dragon Demon Cave would be lucky enough to witness this scene. At that time, no one else had explored the Dragon Demon Cave, so naturally, the first checkpoint did not exist. Around this huge palace, countless blood-red dragon heads appeared. These blood-red dragon heads gradually poked out from the stone walls. Each dragon head was staring at Kang Shinmu, who was in the middle of the palace. At this moment, the pitch-black divine dragon that he had transformed into felt some kind of hot energy sweeping towards him from all directions. Emoya also felt this power, and this caused her face to turn slightly red, and her entire body to become a little weak. This is the power that was given to all the cultivator puppets. What kind of power is this blood-red color? Kang Shinmu frowned. He looked at the blood-red mist in the space, which seemed to be becoming denser and denser. He had a bad premonition. Kang Shinmu, be careful. Emoya immediately calmed her mind and warned him, this power has already reached the supreme level. I think that the peak transcendent god cultivators who entered this place before were all affected by this power, and were unable to control themselves. Supreme level power. Just what kind of power was this? Kang Shinmu's heart was heavy. However, he still released his devouring power to cover his surroundings, allowing the power to be devoured by the devouring power. As for whether or not he could digest this power, Kang Shinmu did not know. However, Kang Shinmu was worried that if he did not devour this power, once he was taken over by this power, he would become one of the cultivator puppets that he had defeated in the past 30 days. Senior Emoya, how do you feel? Kang Shinmu's face suddenly darkened. Because he realized that his devouring power was actually unable to completely block and devour the surrounding blood-red energy. A considerable amount of blood-red energy enveloped Emoya's pure and holy body. It's fine. Emoya shook her head and calmed her mind. After all, I have already comprehended a supreme-level power, so I can resist the invasion of this blood-red energy. It was just that she wasn't used to it, she thought. Seeing that she was fine, Kang Shinmu was relieved. It was a good thing that she was a supreme existence. Otherwise, this exploration of the Dragon Demon Cave would have been somewhat dangerous. This kind of blood-red energy seems to contain many types of supreme powers. It's a mix. Emoya continued to speak gently to Kang Shinmu. It seems that through this power, one can directly step into the supreme level. Furthermore, it's much easier than breaking through to the supreme level in the outside world. Therefore, the cultivators who explored this place before did not seem to resist this power, and wanted to rely on it to directly break through to the supreme level. Supreme is different from all the previous levels. Many cultivators at the peak of the Supreme God realm are unable to step foot into it in their entire lives. Therefore, this kind of blood-red power is an opportunity for them. It's a pity that this power is too mixed. It's not a supreme-level power that ordinary people can grasp. If an ordinary cultivator were to absorb this power, it would be impossible for them to successfully break through to the supreme level. On the contrary, in the process of absorbing and advancing, one's thoughts will be affected by a certain voice contained within this power. In the end, one will lose all of their consciousness and become a puppet occupied by this power. The ancestor puppets we saw before were originally formed like this. However, the cultivators who later entered the Dragon Demon Cave probably died at the hands of these puppets and were then assimilated. Emoya's series of guesses were already close to the truth, and were reasonable. Chapter 5592. There was no doubt that the blood-colored mist contained a variety of supreme energy. This energy was not something that ordinary experts could absorb and control. Therefore, when the experts who had entered this place absorbed the blood-colored mist and tried to use its power to break through and reach the supreme level, they were all affected by the mist. Not only did they fail to break through to the supreme level, but they were also trapped in the Dragon Demon Cave and stayed there forever. Kang Shinmu, you are absorbing the blood-colored mist? At this moment, Emoya noticed Kang Shinmu's actions. Her snow-white face revealed a hint of nervousness. Will there really be no problem? If it was anyone else, she would have reprimanded them. After all, the consequences of the others absorbing the blood-colored mist were already very clear. None of them would be able to leave this place alive. Therefore, after seeing the fate of the others, if he still absorbed the blood-colored mist, wouldn't he be tired of living? However, Emoya still had a subconscious trust in Kang Shinmu. Moreover, she knew that Kang Shinmu's talent had always been different from others. It was a completely special talent that had a very strong ability to devour and assimilate. Therefore, she did not reprimand Kang Shinmu. Instead, she asked him a little nervously. "Don't worry, I'm fine." Kang Shinmu said very confidently. He realized that he could completely absorb and devour all the supreme-level energy in the blood-colored mist. Even if he could not absorb it for a while, he would not be affected by the power of the blood-colored mist. In fact, he was different from others. He could really use the power of the blood-colored mist to break through to the supreme level. This was because his talent itself was chaotic, an existence that could devour any kind of power. This meant that if he wanted to reach the supreme level, he would probably need to absorb all kinds of supreme-level energy and fuse them together in order to achieve his supreme level. And this blood-colored mist just happened to be prepared for him. The chaotic power within was simply a great supplement for Kang Shinmu. As soon as Kang Shinmu answered Emoya, he started to rapidly devour the blood-colored mist. The surrounding blood-colored mist was quickly absorbed into his body. His dragon god cultivation had already reached the peak of the supreme god realm, so after absorbing the energy of the blood-colored fog, his cultivation. Finally, he was moving towards the supreme level. Kang Shinmu had never thought that he would undergo a supreme-level breakthrough in this Dragon Devil Cave. However, this was the best opportunity for him to break through to the supreme level. If he missed this opportunity, he might not be able to find another one even if he waited for a few decades. This even made Kang Shinmu suspect that this dragon demon cave was set up here for him to break through. However, this idea was still rather immature. After all, this dragon devil cave had existed here for an unknown number of years, and was not built recently. Instead, it had existed since ancient times and was buried underground. It was only recently excavated. Be it the dragon gods or the demon gods, they knew too little about these underground ancient ruins. So, unless the creator of this dragon devil cave had foreseen the existence and appearance of Kang Shinmu in advance. Otherwise, this dragon devil cave could not have been built for Kang Shinmu. Of course, it was unlikely that it was built for Kang Shinmu, but it was very likely that it was built for the devouring power. In other words, it was built for the primal chaos heaven devouring dragon. An existence that had obtained the power of the primal chaos heaven devouring dragon would be able to break through to the supreme level in the dragon devil cave. Perhaps this was the case, and Kang Shinmu's guess was still very likely. Very quickly, Kang Shinmu absorbed all the endless blood-colored mist in the surroundings into his body. The devouring power completely devoured every single supreme level power in the blood-colored mist. After devouring, he could even slowly transfer these supreme level powers to the entire body of his divine dragon body. This caused every corner of his divine dragon body to be affected by this supreme level of power. He was contaminated and began to change. This was the supreme transformation of the divine dragon body. The reason why supreme experts had such terrifying battle prowess was because of the supreme transformation of their bodies. When the divine dragon body of a cultivator of the dragon god clan reached the supreme level, the strength of his body would instantly increase by several times. Furthermore, with the supreme level powers that he had obtained and comprehended, he could further strengthen the divine dragon body and obtain supreme divine power. Every type of supreme divine power had different effects, and generally speaking, it would have some relationship with the talent of the dragon martial artist. For example, if the 5 extremes mysterious ice dragon broke through to the supreme level, the supreme divine power that it comprehended would basically be similar to the power of the 5 extremes mysterious ice dragon, or rather, it would have a progressive relationship. It mainly depended on the dragon martial artist's own talent. As for the cultivators of other races, when they comprehended and broke through to the supreme level, it was basically the same. They needed to comprehend a type of supreme divine power that they could comprehend, then refine that supreme divine power into their own body, causing their inherited body to become supreme, and then they would be able to break through and become a supreme existence. And once they became a supreme expert, their battle prowess would skyrocket. The strength of supreme divine power was several times stronger than the talent of a peak supreme god. It was not even on the same level. And at this moment, Kang Shinmu was already feeling the terror of all kinds of supreme divine powers. In this blood-colored mist, he felt a total of 9 types of supreme divine powers. These 9 types of supreme divine powers had different levels of difficulty to comprehend, and their levels were progressively higher. Kang Shinmu could not completely comprehend these 9 types of supreme divine powers in a short period of time, so he could only first devour all 9 types of supreme divine powers and store them in the devouring space. Then, he chose the simplest type of supreme divine power and began to comprehend it. Due to the existence of the devouring power, he completely digested this supreme divine power, and his comprehension speed was much faster than other cultivators. Moreover, his devouring power had completely separated all the types of supreme divine powers, and stored those that he could not comprehend for the time being. This prevented him from being like the other peak supreme god experts, who could not withstand the blood-colored mist and fall into a state of madness. He still maintained the clearest of rationality. Chapter 5593. Within the blood-colored mist, there were a total of 9 different levels of supreme divine powers. However, ordinary cultivators would not be able to sense it at all. They could only sense that it was a chaotic and heterogeneous mixture of supreme divine powers. If they were to absorb all of it, it would be impossible for them to advance to the supreme level. This was because such a chaotic supreme divine power was not something that anyone could comprehend thoroughly, and thus, it was impossible for them to successfully advance to the supreme level. In fact, they would even be enveloped by some special supreme divine power within the blood-colored mist, infiltrated, and invaded, turning them into the defender of the entire dragon demon cave. Only a cultivator like Kang Shinmu, who possessed the power of devouring, would be able to distinguish the levels of the 9 supreme divine powers within the blood-colored mist. Then, he would choose the simplest one to comprehend first. This made it possible for Kang Shinmu to use the supreme divine power within the blood-colored mist to break through. And the supreme divine power that Kang Shinmu had chosen was the easiest to comprehend among the 9 supreme divine powers. It was the power of the supreme divine fire. It was the strongest power of the divine fire contained within the blood-colored mist. Kang Shinmu had completely separated it, and then, he had absorbed the supreme divine fire's intelligence into his own divine dragon body. At this moment, the pitch-black divine dragon body was boiling hot, as if it was on fire. This was not an ordinary flame. One must know that with the strength of Kang Shinmu's current divine dragon body, even magma could not do anything to him. The current Kang Shinmu, after transforming into a pitch-black divine dragon, could even directly bathe and roll in the magma of a volcano, and would not suffer the slightest injury. This was the strength of Kang Shinmu's divine dragon body after transforming into a pitch-black divine dragon. Its defensive ability was simply too strong. Therefore, the supreme divine fire was actually able to burn Kang Shinmu's pitch-black divine dragon body. It could be seen that the supreme divine dragon's energy had already completely surpassed the power that Kang Shinmu had come into contact with before. This was the super strength of a supreme being. Why did it possess such tyrannical power? This was because every type of supreme divine power contained the most extreme power in the world. The supreme divine flame was the strongest flame energy in the world. Of course, this was only one of them. There were many different forms of flame power, and the supreme divine flame was only one of them. There were many more profound flame powers that were the same as the supreme divine flame. They were all fire-attributed supreme divine powers. Every type of supreme divine power had many different manifestations, and every cultivator who wanted to break through to become a supreme expert had to comprehend a certain type of supreme divine power. Regardless of the attribute or manifestation, as long as one could comprehend it, they would be able to ascend to a supreme cultivation realm. Of course, not everyone could attempt to comprehend supreme divine power. For example, the current supreme divine fire was only a relatively basic and milder type of supreme divine power. However, even Kang Shinmu's pitch-black divine dragon body could be incinerated by it. From this, it could be seen that it was not an easy task to comprehend a supreme divine power. Even if an ordinary cultivator reached the peak of the supreme god realm, they would not be able to withstand the invasion of the supreme god realm, and it would be impossible for them to comprehend the supreme god realm. If one did not come into contact with the supreme god realm, it would be a fool's dream to want to comprehend the supreme god realm. One had to personally experience the supreme god realm in order to be able to comprehend the essence of the supreme god realm, and then truly comprehend it as one's own power. Comprehending the supreme god realm was mainly divided into 10 levels of steps. The first level of comprehension meant that the cultivator began to know and understand the attributes, characteristics, and other superficial situations of the supreme god realm. The second level of comprehension required the cultivator to have a deeper understanding of the supreme god realm. They needed to know the restraining and restraining attributes of the supreme god realm. At this point, they would be able to slightly control the supreme god realm. Then, the third level, the fourth level, all the way to the 10th level, as the cultivator continued to understand the supreme god realm, they would be able to use more and more of the supreme god realm's power. Of course, as long as they could comprehend the first 3 levels, the cultivator would be able to extract this supreme god realm from the world, and then comprehend and use this supreme god realm. They would even be able to cultivate the corresponding supreme dragon martial arts technique. Of course, the deeper one's comprehension of the supreme god power, the stronger the supreme god power they could use, and they would become more proficient in all aspects. For example, the speed at which he could refine and condense this transcendent divine power had become faster, and the might of the dragon martial skill that he could use to transform it into would become stronger. For example, the might of the transcendent divine power could be unleashed to the greatest extent, and so on. The higher the level of comprehension of the supreme divine power, the stronger it would be. As for supreme experts, it was enough to comprehend one of the supreme divine powers in the beginning. However, as they comprehended that supreme divine power to a certain level, they could continue to comprehend other supreme divine powers that were related to that supreme divine power. For example, after comprehending the power of the supreme divine fire to the 10th level, he could conveniently comprehend some other fire attribute supreme divine powers: supreme hellish fire, supreme nether fire, supreme heavenly fire. All of them were much more complicated than the supreme divine fire, and they were also much more powerful fire elemental divine powers. If he could comprehend all of these supreme divine powers, his final battle prowess would become incomparably terrifying. Therefore, in theory, there was no limit to one's combat power. Until, when the cultivator had comprehended most of the supreme divine powers in the world, he could be crowned with the title of Ancestor. The Ancestor dragon was rumored to have completely comprehended a certain type of supreme divine power. For example, the Ancestor dragon of fire was an existence that had completely mastered the fire elemental supreme divine power. It could be said that when the Ancestor dragon was angry, it could destroy heaven and earth. All the fire elemental supreme divine powers would condense into Ancestor fire, which could even completely burn space to ashes. For example, the eldest senior sister of the dragon gods would have no chance of survival under the burning of the Ancestor dragon of fire. She would be completely burned into nothingness. This was the Ancestor dragon. In the past, Kang Shinmu did not understand what level of existence the Ancestor dragon was at. But now, after coming into contact with the supreme divine powers, he understood a little. And there were more than 100 types of fire elemental supreme divine powers in the world. To comprehend all the fire elemental supreme divine powers and break through to the level of the Ancestor dragon, it was extremely difficult, even more difficult than reaching the heavens. One had to know that to comprehend a certain type of supreme divine power, one had to first come into contact with that supreme divine power. And now, most types of supreme divine powers could not be found anymore. They were almost extinct in the world. You're tuning into the Biyao's Wuxia Chronicles YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.